Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Got Teleported to My Hero Academia Part 1. Before we start, please go support IC Gremry01 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. After stopping Hades and Angra Mainyu, a moment of peace was supposed to come, but the god of the Underworld was not happy with that. He would never be. In a treacherous move, he used a powerful space-time spell that would affect the hero of the Underworld and pillar of the Alliance, Hyoudou Issei, sending him away from his world. Now Issei would end up in a world where not only are there people with special abilities, but also, being a hero is a job and there are academies where one studies to be one. What will the Sekiryuutei do now in a world of heroes? Prologue. Fake London. Several meters below the city of London, England, an event took place that put an end to a group that was plotting against the alliance that was taking place between factions of the supernatural world. Hades and a group of gods formed the Infernal Alliance, consisting of Nyx, Héroes, Angra Mainyu and Hades as their leader. There were many battles against artificial demons created using the dead body of the mother of all demons, Lilith, along with several grim reapers on the side of the Greek god of the Underworld. At the end, the battle ended in fake London, an area the size of London several meters below it. There Hades attacked using replicas of the celestial dragons Drake and Albion, although they were nothing against Kruch and the original Drake. At the end of the battle came down to an Issei controlled to hate perverted things again, and a Vali at the top of his power, against Hades and Angra Mainyu. Issei defeated Angra Mainyu by overcoming the control of Alpheka Tyrant, the Longinus-class sacred gear with absolute mind control qualities, and managed to awaken the true Dabalos dragon god with which he defeated the evil god of Zoroastrianism. Issei and Vali then faced Hades, who was not one of the three main gods of Greek mythology for nothing, as the god of the Underworld was more difficult than Nyx and Héroes, even though they are supposed to be primordial gods and stronger than normal ones. But in the end he ended up losing the duo. Everything had returned to a peace, brief, but peace at the end of the day. Or so it was expected. Issei was the cry of a beautiful girl with blood-red hair. More and more screams came after that. Cries of surprise, anger, and anguish. The hero of all, Hyoudou Issei, was absorbed by a kind of dark portal, almost like a black hole, as it deformed the space around him. There were seconds, moments where Hyoudou Issei was no longer in that place. The blame. Fafafa cough without Sekiryuutei cough. What will they do now with their alliance? Was Hades' question, using a very cynical and mocking voice, and then being silenced by a powerful kick from an annoyed Vali Lucifer. What happened? How did it happen? Space-time magic declared a beautiful black-haired girl with cat ears and two tails, Kuroka, older sister of Kaneko Tujo or Chiron, being a former criminal and now one of Hyoudou Issei's fiancées. But it is of a very advanced level. Mentioned a beautiful silver-haired girl, Rosweiss, a former Valkyrie who worked with Odin but is now Hyoudou Issei's tower. At that point, a black-haired boy wearing golden armor with a lion's head on the breastplate approached angrily and grabbed the tired god of the Underworld by the collar of his robes. What did you do to Issei? Serorg Bale demanded to know angrily. Fa, Hades laughed. Even though he was tired, the Sekiryuutei was simply expelled from this world. Fafafa, he said, laughing at the end. Banished from this world? Asked a noble-looking blonde, Arthur Pendragon. No one understood any of that, but Issei's fiancés were very worried about him. We must take Hades to interrogate him. We have to know what he did, said a serious Ajuka Beelzebub. That was not long in coming, and using high-caliber magic seals, Hades along with an unconscious Angra Mainyu were taken in sealing containers heading to the largest prison in the Infundio, Judica. That day the Sekiryuutei, Hyoudou Issei, forcibly left his world. He couldn't move, he felt dizzy, he saw everything black with little white flashes. Everything was spinning and he felt the energies in his body spiral out of control. Unbeknownst to him, the little demonic energy he possessed covered his body, changing it. Then everything went dark and he felt nothing. Mizudafu, Japan. It was a beautiful morning in the city of Mizudafu, a large city almost comparable to Tokyo, as well as being coastal. In an area located on a beach, the junk-strewn Toga Coastal Park, were two individuals. A boy of about 15 years old, with green hair and freckles, wearing a black shirt and pants with red and white shoes. The boy was moving heavy piles of scrap metal to clean the beach. The other is a haggard-looking man, with long, somewhat messy blonde hair, wearing a loose white t-shirt with equally loose pants and large black shoes. Izuku Midoriya and Toshinori Yagi, one a young aspiring hero and the other a hero under the pseudonym of All Might. Izuku was chosen by Toshinori to carry a very special power that has been around for 9 generations, being one for all, a hereditary quirk that grows with more generations. Now Izuku was moving the scrap to increase his muscle mass and be a good carrier of the OFA, since a good physical condition is needed to be able to withstand the power, since if not, it could end up in bad shape. Toshinori was supervising that Izuku did not get hurt and overexerted himself, but something caught both of their attention. The wind suddenly changed, starting to blow violently, while a sound like static could be heard. All Might, look up there. Izuku pointed to the sky, and Toshinori immediately looked where his student pointed. In the sky about 35 meters above them, a kind of black hole began to open up out of nowhere. It ejected debris, but then something came out of there, a body. Toshinori immediately entered his muscular form and launched himself at high speed to catch the one who was expelled from said portal. By the time he managed to land, the portal had already disappeared. Izuku quickly approached his teacher to see what happened. All Might, what happened? Who came out of that black hole? Izuku asked, nervous both and expectant. Toshinori looked at the person he caught. He's a young man, Toshinori said in surprise. In her arms she held a young man with brown hair and wearing a crimson uniform. He seemed to be of a similar age to Izuku. Izuku couldn't believe it. A boy his age was expelled from that portal. Midoriya Shonen, let's leave training for today. Go home and don't tell anyone about this, Toshinori requested. Izuku nodded nervously. What are you going to do with him? Izuku asked. I'll take him to UA. It's the only place I can take him at the moment, said Toshinori, and then coughed up blood. I have to go. See you later, Midoriya Shonen, and so the hero took a great leap away from the place. Izuku stood there, confused and nervous. At that point his phone rang, which he answered. Hello? Izuku asked without having seen the number. Aizu, what time are you coming? He asked a female voice that sounded annoyed. Ka-chan, it's you. I'm already going back home, said Izuku, smiling somewhat nervously. Okay, I'll be waiting at your house then, said the girl. Sure, I'm coming, Izuku said, and the call ended. Izuku went to record his things and headed home, but he was deep in thought. Who is he and how did he end up in that black hole? Was the question that was on the freckled man's mind as he returned home. What was unknown was that the arrival of that boy would give way to great changes, whether for better or worse, but if one thing was certain, it was that that boy was the answer to the apocalypse. Chapter 1. UA Nursing. 3 days later. It's been 3 days since Toshinori brought an unconscious Issei to UA, mainly for Director Nizu to interrogate him, since coming out of a strange dark hole is something you don't see every day. Now the brown-haired boy was lying on one of the infirmary stretchers, being monitored by the heroine recovery girl, since she is the specialist they have at the academy for any type of injuries. But now, let's look into Issei's mind and see what's going on. Inside the boosted gear. On the white platform surrounded by empty seats, there was an unconscious brown-haired man lying there. A few meters away was a huge red dragon watching him. Partner, Issei, shouted Drake, trying to wake up Issei, and that shout ended up waking up the brown-haired boy. Ayo, what's going on? Issei shouted, alarmed and looking around, only to see that he was inside the boosted gear. Huh? What am I doing here? He asked and looked at Drake, he said, looking at his partner. Mate, you won't believe it, but Hades took you out of our world, Drake said seriously. Our world? Wait, I remember now. Hades used a strange magic and then I was absorbed by a dark portal, said Issei, remembering the little he saw before falling unconscious. Wait, does that mean it can't be? He said, knowing what it meant. Yes, we are not in our world right now, Drake said seriously. But is that even possible? Issei asked. Yes, there is space-time magic that can do that, and more, said Drake, surprising the brown-haired boy. Damn that bastard, how do we get back? Issei asked, since he couldn't just leave his world out of the blue. Well, I don't know, said Drake, since Issei was more than surprised. What do you mean you don't know? Issei asked, alarmed. I'm not an expert in magic, so don't expect much from me, said Drake. Issei fell to his knees. He was in shock knowing that he couldn't return to his world. It can't be, Mom, Dad, Rias, girls, damn you, you bucking skeleton god, because of you. I won't be able to see anyone, Issei shouted furiously, throwing shit at the god. Drake looked at him with a drop of sweat. Calm down, buddy, said Drake. How do you expect me to calm down? I won't be able to go back home. I won't see Mom and Dad, I won't be able to be with Rias and the others, and what's worse, I won't be able to enjoy the prize that Rias and Aquino had for me, she shouted as she began to cry comically. Drake sighed. His partner was an idiot sometimes. HAA, calm down already, don't you see that this is something serious? Drake shouted angrily. True, sorry, said Issei, calming down, but now what do we do? I don't know anything about magic and neither do you. Besides, we don't know where we are, and the worst thing is, do we have a chance of returning to our world? He asked worriedly. Well, I don't know how to answer you, because this is something very complicated, and it's also the first time that it's happened to one of my bearers. The most peculiar things of all happened to you, said Drake. Hey, it's not my fault that damn skeleton god hates everyone who isn't from his pantheon, Issei shouted angrily. No wonder Sensei and Surzex-sama never liked that guy. Because of that damn idiot I almost died, and they destroyed the Underworld, he said, annoyed, remembering about Samuel and the attack of the Underworld. Hades has always been a misogynistic god. He hates all other pantheons. He thinks the Greeks should be the only ones. Either Zeus or Poseidon are like that, and that idiot is, said Drake, contributing his grain of sand. Anyway, first you will have to wake up. I managed to see that someone brought you to a hospital, and you have been out of combat for at least 3 days due to exhaustion from using your new armor. And what Hades did, he said, being that Issei was surprised by that, so I recommend that you hide your powers as Sekiryuutei as much as you can. Because it seems that there are individuals with powers in this world, he said, surprising the brown-haired man more. People with powers in this world? Really? Issei asked, surprised. Yes, well, I sensed people stronger than the average human, and the woman who has been watching you in your unconsciousness uses some healing power that helped your speedy recovery. She is not the same as your blonde girlfriend, but she was good at helping you recover early, said Drake, so don't use your powers. First, because you will only be able to access the balance breaker for the moment, and second, so as not to attract attention, he said to the brown-haired man. I can't access balance breaker? Issei asked. Yes, because the Diablo's dragon stabilized, but what Hades did to get you out of our world caused your powers to destabilize. It made that form along with the queen now enter dormancy. That will take time, so for the moment you will only be able to access balance breaker and possibly the bishop, rook and knight forms, explained Drake. Wow, how bad, and now that I had already controlled that form, said Issei as Drake sighed. Too bad, but anyway, I'm going to sleep. That magic also affected me a lot. So you're alone until I recover, so be careful, and for whatever you want, don't do anything stupid, said Drake. Hey, I know I'm stupid, but I also know when not to make mistakes, Issei said, annoyed. Drake just ignored him and lay down, his figure beginning to blur until it disappeared from that place, leaving only Issei. Wow, I was really tired. Well, I'd better wake up now, said Issei, starting to leave the boosted gear space. Real world. Issei began to open his eyes, and when he did so he looked completely at the place where he was, the UA infirmary, something he obviously doesn't know. Ugh, my body hurts, he complained, feeling some pain in both his muscles and his bones. At that moment someone would enter, an elderly lady of short stature and wearing a peculiar outfit for Issei, also wearing a medical gown while holding a pallet with papers. She noticed Issei awake and approached. I see you're awake. That's good, boy, said recovery girl, approaching Issei. Me, where am I? Issei asked. You're in the UA infirmary. All Might brought you here after he found you, the woman explained, starting to check that Issei was okay. Because he may have woken up, but that doesn't mean he's completely okay. UA? All Might? Issei asked, confused. You don't know All Might? How strange, but he's the greatest hero in all of Japan, said Recovery Girl, confused. Wow, even though you've already regained consciousness, I'm surprised to see that all your wounds have healed and that you're okay, although your muscles have some problems, but nothing serious. You just need to rest, and you'll be as good as new, she said, writing everything down on her medical tablet. Issei just listened. This place was strange, but he didn't feel anything wrong here. Well, they told me to call Director Nizu and All Might once you woke up, so I'll be right back and don't move. Seriously, you're still weak, Recovery Girl said seriously. Issei just nodded, but even moving his head for that simple action hurt him badly. She went out and left Issei alone. The window was open and the sound from outside could be heard perfectly. Well, Issei had a very developed hearing that he even heard several young voices talking and some birds, along with the bustle of the nearby city. Issei just stared at the ceiling. He had no expression on his face, but he was worried. I'm in another world. I may not return to my world, my parents, the girls, my friends, everything. I may never see them again, he thought, becoming increasingly sad, because just thinking about it made him want to get depressed. Although Drake forgot to tell him something, that Ajuka could help in looking for him. After all, the demon was someone extremely intelligent, not as much as Azazel, but intelligent to the point of doing impressive things. The minutes passed and Issei only had negative thoughts. That if he didn't return to his world, that if he was stranded here where he didn't know anyone, that he would be alone, that he would never see his loved ones again, and all that, he was already entering an emo stage. Until the sound of the door opening caught his attention. Issei put his thoughts aside and saw the people who entered, or well, a person and an animal. I see you're fine, shonen. That's good, Toshinori said in his blowjob form while smiling. Issei just watched him. He wasn't surprised, since Vasco Estrada surpassed him in musculature. The only peculiar thing was his face that had that strange shadow. But his attention was drawn more to that strange little being wearing a suit. Hello, young man. I am the director of this academy, Nizu, and I see that you are impressed by my appearance. Ha ha ha. It is not the first time that happens, said Nizu with some amusement in his voice. Issei didn't say anything. It was impressive. But even more impressive were Akino's little Onis or the mini Fafnir that came out in the fight against Rias. I'm leaving you. I have to take care of some kids who got injured in one of Cementas's lessons, said Recovery Girl, leaving the three of them alone. Silence reigned in the room, only being filled by the few sounds coming through the window. Well, young man, Toshinori told me something very interesting when he found you. Nizu spoke calmly, that you came out of a strange vortex that opened in the sky where he was. Tell me, where exactly are you from? He asked the brown-haired boy. Toshinori was silent. He left the whole matter to Nizu. After all, he was the most brilliant mind in all of Japan. From another world. I come from another world, Issei replied, because in the end there was no point in hiding his origin when they saw the vortex. The two were surprised, especially Toshinori, who didn't expect that. I see, and what exactly is that other world like? Nizu asked, believing that, since the possibilities were high. Well, there is Japan. There were 2 world wars like the second one against the Nazis, and so on, said Issei, not wanting to give much information, because he did not want to tell anything about the supernatural world. I see many similarities with our world, and tell me, how did you end up getting out of that vortex? Nizu asked. Issei began to formulate a good answer, one that wouldn't take away the supernatural nature of his world, until he remembered something that could be common with the multiverse and such things. Well, in our world there is magic, and well, there have been problems with bad guys. I am like a hero there, and well, an idiot used space-time magic and expelled me from my world, said Issei, since magic would be the most normal thing I know in fiction and all that. Obviously Nizu and Toshinori were surprised. Magic? Does magic exist in your world? Toshinori asked somewhat incredulously. Does magic really exist, and that's why you ended up here? Nizu asked, unsure. Yes, magic exists. Let me show you, said Issei, stretching out his hand with some difficulty. He opened his palm and, concentrating some demonic energy, a flame lit up. The two present, although they were surprised that it was something normal in their world, and well, what Issei said was doubtful. How do we know it's not a quirk? Niza asked. Quirk? What is that? Issei asked, confused. True, you are from another world. A quirk is a kind of power or ability that 80% of the population in this world is born with, Niza said in a way that Issei could understand. And the other 20% are born without one, I imagine, said Issei, understanding that it was like the superpowers in those comics he read. Exactly, that's why what you did could have been done by someone with a quirk related to fire. That's why I doubt that you come from another world and that you used a quirk that could be dangerous for you and others, Niza said. I understand, but it is true that I come from another world. But first of all, what city is this? Asked Issei. Masudafin, Niza replied. I see. Well, let me tell you that city does not exist in the Japan where I come from. I live in a city called Ko, and I can say that city does not exist here, said Issei as Nizu agreed. Indeed, that city does not exist, but your origin is still doubtful since you could have given me a random name, said Nizu. You're right. One thing, by any chance you didn't see my phone with me? Issei asked. Yes, although it was somewhat damaged, but it still works, All Might said, passing the phone to Issei, since he brought it with him just in case. Issei took it with difficulty, and when he unlocked it, the screen was somewhat ruined, but it worked since this phone was created by Grigori and is better than all the ones in his world. I quickly looked for several photos he took in the gallery. Photos of him and the girls or his friends at the academy, wearing his uniform. Here, look, this is me at the academy, said Issei, passing the cell phone to Nizu, who took it and looked at the photos. Nizu agreed. It was clear that those photos were real, and it was also clear that they were from an unknown place, as he noticed an academy that does not exist in Japan, and several other things. He then passed the phone to Issei. Well, in fact, everything seems to be correct. That school and possibly city do not exist in this world, but there is something that does not fit, said Nizu. What? Issei asked, confused. The young man in the photograph seems to be between 17 or 18 years old, but you are younger than that, said Nizu, making Issei surprised. Not again, Issei said, confusing the two. The brown-haired boy quickly opened the camera and put the front one on, seeing something that surprised him. It can't be, I became young again, Issei shouted, recognizing that face from when he was in late high school. Nizu and Tashinori were surprised by Issei's reaction. They didn't expect that. Now Issei was in another world and now he knows that he is somewhat young again. What will happen now? Well, time will tell. Chapter 2. Shortly after. Well, now that you've calmed down, I'd like to know your name, Nizu said to the now calm Issei. My name is Hyoudou Issei, said Issei. Well, young Hyoudou, now tell me, what situation did you go through to end up here? Asked Nizu. Issei began to think quickly. He had to come up with something, since he couldn't say anything about the supernatural. He sighed and replied. Well, as I said, in my world there is magic. Well, it turns out that a group of terrorists who wanted to dominate several countries was causing problems. There were several attacks, but all of them were stopped along with whoever did them. In the end, we had to go to London where the enemy was. They were hiding in a replica of London 200 meters underground. There we fought with the leader and his last assistant. We defeated them after a tough battle, but in the end the leader used a powerful space-time magic that ended up opening a vortex that absorbed me, and the rest you already know, Issei said while Nizu and Tashinori agreed. Well, here we've also had problems with terrorists due to their quirks, although not to the point where they create environments equal to entire cities. That magic sounds like something versatile but dangerous, Nizu commented. In fact, they can also build, rebuild or create thousands of structures times faster than any builder, said Issei as the adults agreed. So Hyoudou Shonen, you were on the front line to fight, said Tashinori. Yes, it's because he was part of an anti-terrorist group that was created for these cases. I'm from the main team, and it was normal for him to be at the forefront against the leaders of that organization, Issei explained, because it was true, he was a member of the DxD anti-terrorist team. Wow, being so young and having a very important position, it must be difficult, Nizu said. Something, but thanks to someone very special to me I have everything in order in my chaotic life. I just hope to see you again, said Issei, somewhat dejected by being away from home. Nizu and Tashinori understood Issei's sadness at being away from home. Well, seeing your situation of non-existence here in this world, Along with the fact that it is more than obvious that you do not possess anything, I could help you with that only if you can do something, Nisa said, thinking of something that could benefit both of them. What is it about? Issei asked, interested. Well, you see, as I told you, in this world powers or abilities called quirks predominate. Because of that several problems arose, and currently being a hero is a job more than fiction. Currently you are in the infirmary of the best hero academy in all of Japan, the UA, and I am the director of this, Nizu explained, which surprised Issei. Are you the director? Issei asked, surprised, and he agreed. Indeed, young man, in fact, Toshinori, the man behind me, is the country's #1 hero and symbol of peace, All Might, Nizu said, pointing at Toshinori. Issei looked at him and felt a strong power from him, because his presence imposed respect, although of course, he remembers a certain bald man who is the greatest annihilator of the Catholic Church, and well, that passes. But what does that have to do with what you're going to propose to me? Issei asked, not understanding. He wasn't very smart in these absences. That's what I'm getting at. You see, in 8 months there will be the admission tests for the UA. I want you to take the tests and enter the hero course while I provide you with a house, an identity and support, said Nizu, which confused Issei. That sounds too good for something as simple as entering this academy, Issei said, thinking it was something strange. In fact, what I'm going to ask you comes after you enter the academy, Nizu said. Tell me what it is, said Issei, because he couldn't waste an opportunity like this. Well, that's simple. Once you enter the academy you could help us with the students so they can better develop their quirks, Nizu said, making Issei confused. Well, it wouldn't be difficult since thanks to several people I managed to better master my fire magic. But isn't that why you come to study at this academy? To learn to better master your powers? Issei asks. Yes, but I feel like you have experience dealing with controlling powers prematurely, Nizu commented. Well, yes, I managed to master my powers by following the guidance of my teachers, said Issei, remembering the magic training sessions he had with Rosweiss, Lefei, and on many occasions Akino, with this one ending in hot and hexy results. Well, then what do you say? Do you accept my proposal? Nizu asked, smiling. Well, I have no choice, but it will be until I can return to my world, said Issei, and the mouse, bear, guinea pig, badger thing agreed. Well, we have a deal, and thank you for all the help you give me, he said, smiling as he extended his hand towards the director, who accepted the gesture. You don't have to thank young Hyoudou. Helping is the greatest purpose of a hero, said Nizu. Although he's practically hiring me, but what does it matter? Issei thought. After a while Issei was discharged after seeing that his body only showed some resentment from the pain he received in his battle against Angra Mainyu and Hades. Now he was standing next to Toshinori and Nizu in the direction. Well, young Hyoudou, you'll have to wait a few hours for me to get you an apartment along with some breath and clothes in your size, so in the meantime I'd like to ask you a question, Nizu said, and Issei nodded. What do you want to know? Issei asked. Well, as you know, Toshinori is the #1 hero of all Japan and the symbol of peace, Nizu said, starting to speak seriously. Yeah. They told it recently, Issei said, confused. As you know, for a greater good there will always be an evil of the same degree, and well, Nizu said, but Toshinori got ahead of him. I fought against a very dangerous supervillain, and well, after that fight I suffered great damage that I still have after effects from today, said Toshinori when in that coughed up, spitting blood. Issei was surprised and worried. Hey, are you okay? Issei asked, but what followed surprised him more. Toshinori lost his blowjob form and entered his stunted state, which was a big surprise to Issei. Yes, don't worry, Hyoudou Shonen, this is the result of the hardest fight I've ever had in my life, said Toshinori, wiping the blood that came out of his mouth. Issei was shocked to see the man's emaciated form. He didn't expect something like that to happen. As you can see, Toshinori is no longer in his best condition. In fact, he still lives by pure miracle. He lost a large part of his organs and muscle mass. He is still standing by divine grace, said Nizu, although Issei understood why he said that, since the blonde man was a damn miracle that kept him alive. This happened when I fought against the most powerful villain in this world, evil incarnate, and whose fight almost led to my death, said Toshinori, looking at Issei, who was surprised. But they managed to catch him, right? I mean, from the way they talk, It was a fight to the death of great proportions, and I think that guy must have been left in the same or worse condition than him, said Issei, pointing at Tashinori at the end. Not currently. I managed to escape after the final collision. He is still free, said Tashinori, looking down while looking frustrated. Wow, that must have been a hard blow to know, that Issei commented. A very big one, considering he's the greatest villain that has ever existed, Nisa said with clear seriousness. But anyway, wait here for about 2 hours. In that time I'll have everything ready for you to leave the infirmary, commented the director. Sure, I'll wait here, Issei said, and Nisa nodded. The two left Issei alone, as he sighed in frustration while looking at nothing in particular. I must be alert to anything, thought the brown-haired boy, because he had to distrust all strangers no matter how good they seemed. An hour passed where Issei was eating something that Tashinori had brought him before leaving for his work as a hero, also wearing new clothes that he brought him, when Nisa entered the infirmary smiling, accompanied by a man with black hair, prominent dark circles under his eyes, and wearing black with some bandages on his neck. Well, young Hyoudou, everything is ready, but for the moment I will send you with him to your new home, and tomorrow your documents will arrive, said Nizu as Issei agreed to see the black-haired man. I'm Shota Aizawa, and the director already told me about your situation, so calm down, boy, said Aizawa with clear reluctance. Okay, then, you can go, and along the way, don't forget that in 9.5 months there will be the entrance exam for the UA, said Nizu as Issei agreed. Okay, let's go, kid, Aizawa said while yawning. Of course, was the only thing Issei said, standing up, but first standing in front of Nizu and bowing. Thank you for what you're doing for me. Really, everything you're doing is a great help, he said gratefully, because although he still doesn't completely trust Nizu and the others, it helped him a lot. You don't have to do it, that's what heroes are for, to help, Nizu said smiling. Still, thanks for everything, said Issei. After that he said goodbye to Nizu and followed Aizawa to the parking lot of the place. Issei looked closely at the UA campus, seeing that it was very large and that Aizawa told him that it was only the first-year area. They arrived at the parking lot and got into a modest black car that Aizawa immediately started driving. On the way, Aizawa started talking. Well, the director explained your situation to me. Although it seems unbelievable, the fact that Tashinori brought you and corroborated it makes it surprising, but knowing how this world works and so many quirks that exist, I still have doubts that coming from another world is more than a simple lie, and that you have a special quirk that makes you travel through black holes or something like that, Aizawa said without looking at Issei, since the latter understood his point. I may be crazy, but it's true, I'm not from this world, I don't know anything about quirks. It even surprises me that being a hero is a common job when where I come from being a hero is a title that someone earns for great actions for the benefit of others, said Issei. Being that, Aizawa agreed, but I understand your point and distrust. But believe me, compared to other undesirable subjects, I am someone good who has not committed any crime against society. I mean, I am still a high school student, he said, being that Aizawa understood. And that's another thing that surprises me. According to the director, you are 18 years old. But you look younger than that age, Aizawa said. Issei sighed with some annoyance. Magic can do several things. Plus there are people who are thousands of years older and look like 20-year-olds, said Issei, remembering several of the supernatural beings he knows. That's crazy, Aizawa said, surprised. After a while they arrived at a somewhat large apartment building, where Aizawa and Issei went down. Follow me, your apartment is on the 4th floor, Aizawa said, and Issei nodded. The adult and the young man went up the elevator, as Issei was thinking about what kind of life he would have here now. Stepping out of the elevator, Aizawa led him down the hallway to the last apartment. They both stood in front of the door, with Aizawa extending his hand to her the keys to the apartment. Well, inside you have everything you need to live. Your new identity documents will arrive within 2 days. Also, the director left inside an amount of money for your monthly expenses. Manage the money well, said Aizawa with that sleepy face that he loaded. Also remember not to do anything flashy. Just keep a low profile, since the director does not want you to cause a scandal using your abilities in public, since they would take them for quirks, and you would get into trouble, and using quirks without being a hero is a crime, he said, and Issei agreed. Well, I'll leave you. I still have things to do, said the man, and turned around to go back where he came from. Issei just looked at him, and then looked at his key and opened the door. He needs a really good nap, thought Issei after seeing the condition Aizawa was in. Then he entered his new apartment, seeing that despite being simple, it had everything necessary to live. He sighed and went to sit on the couch inside the place and looked at the ceiling. Shit, now I'm stranded in another world. Drake went to sleep for I don't know how long and I don't know if he can come back. Hades, you damn son of a bitch, said Issei, ending up annoyed by what Hades caused. He would have to think about his next moves. Although Nizu and Tashinori were trustworthy, along with Aizawa, he would have to see what kind of panorama this place showed and see how to proceed, since literally all of this was unknown. Using some space magic he learned from Kuroka and Akino, he pulled out a very technological-looking phone that the Grigori technicians gave to everyone he knew. It was a strange prototype that, while it has all the features of a common smartphone, this one has them amplified and with an addition that uses solar, electrical, kinetic, magical energy and others to charge it, along with a small AI that helps obtain data in a way that would make human hackers look ridiculous well. The latter is only had by Gasper, Vali, Dulio, Chow Chow, Tobio and him, along with Sona, Sigvera and Rias. Well, let's investigate, and so he made the phone's AI hack a nearby Wi-Fi network belonging to a company, in addition to being incognito. And so a day would end for Issei, legally starting in this new world, a world totally unknown to him and that will bring him many new experiences. Chapter 3. The next day. Issei's apartment. Issei's first legal day in this world had already begun. Issei received his identity papers early, which stated that he was 15 years old and an orphan since Niza made up that his parents died and that he has no family, which is why he is emancipated. Now, what was I going to do? There was only one thing for the moment. Well, let's explore, said Issei, leaving the apartment complex where he would start living to go for a walk and see the environment he is in. And with that in mind, he set out on his journey of reconnaissance. Issei walked through the streets of Mizudafu, seeing that technically everything was almost the same, of course, ignoring some more advanced technology than in his world. On the human side, the supernaturals had surprising things, for example the virtual reality game that Ajuka created, Azazel's robots, and other things. Issei also noticed how picturesque the people were, as there were people with remarkable features even with non-human appearances, like a guy who had a cat's head and a woman with a somewhat long neck. What a surprising thing! In my world only yokais or some humanoid creature would be like that, Issei thought as he continued on his way. The streets are obviously clean, and something else to highlight, I noticed several individuals wearing colorful outfits. Yep, they definitely look like the comics, Issei thought, knowing that those were the famous heroes he heard about. That's when he ended up in the center, watching on a huge screen located in a large building, as they showed All Might saving a bus full of people from falling off a bridge. Many cheered at this, as it was not for nothing that Tashinori was Japan's #1 hero. Well, I'd better go eat something, thought the brown-haired boy as he went to some family restaurant or fast food franchise. He entered a McDonald's, similar to a McDonald's but with a W. He ordered enough to fill himself up and went to sit near the window to watch the outside. Everything was going on as normal, people came and went, along with the occasional hero who kept watch. Everything was fine until... boom! A loud explosion was heard a few meters from the premises. Obviously people panicked and started leaving the place. Will they have paid at least? Issei thought as he left the cost of his food on the table. He calmly walked out, seeing that about a block away, where there seemed to be a jewelry store, an explosion had occurred caused by individuals who were clearly thieves, as they had their faces covered by balaclavas while they used their quirks to escape and caused a ruckus. Obviously the heroes who were there tried to help, but those guys had the advantage thanks to one who was throwing what looked like explosive snot. They got into a previously prepared car and drove off while celebrating. Issei saw that surprised. It was the first time he witnessed such a peculiar robbery. Well, he has witnessed fights and almost the end of his world, but this was a little impressive. He was tempted to help, but he thought things better and left, because in the end he had to go unnoticed. After walking for a while, he arrived at a park where he sat on a bench while drinking a soda he bought. He sat staring at nothing in particular, just thinking about his current situation. I'm stranded in another world. Drake is indisposed until Red knows when, and worst of all, I lost most of my power, damn. He thought, looking down. Being in another world, where you literally know no one and no one knows you, must have been a tough time for him, even though he's been away from home for a long time. But going to another country is one thing and going to another bucking world. Ugh, Drake is right. Only the stupidest things happen to me, Issei thought, holding his head somewhat frustrated. This was all very bad. He just waited for them to take him back. He didn't want to be away from his family for a long time. Although if there was something to emphasize, it was his fear. Fear of not being able to return to his world, fear of not being able to see his parents, fear of not seeing his girls, fear of not seeing his friends, fear of being left here without family, without anything, alone. Sigh, thinking negatively did nothing but depress him. Then he saw a man running quickly holding a bag. Help, stop that thief, shouted an elderly lady. Issei looked at the subject, frowned, and standing up, he did what his heart and morals told him to. Using a speed greater than human, so much so that it surprised everyone present, he reached the thief in a few seconds, who was more than surprised. Issei quickly got in the way of the thief, who collided with him, causing the thief to be knocked down as he felt himself hit against a post or something. Give me that bag, that doesn't belong to you, Issei demanded seriously. The thief looked at him, hurt but annoyed. Go to hell, brat, said the guy so he could use his quirk. The subject possessed a quirk that made his saliva sticky and that it shot out at high speeds. He thought he would blind Issei, but what he didn't count on was that Issei would easily dodge it by moving his head to the side. Fine, let's do it the hard way, Issei said to kick the guy in the chest. He clearly measured his strength, as he could kill him with one blow. The subject was thrown back about 5 meters. That kick knocked him out. Issei walked over and took the bag. The lady already nearby looked at Issei with a smile. Thanks for the help, young man, she said, taking the bag. Don't worry, ma'am. I did what anyone would do, or well, that's what I think, said Issei, knowing that no one would help anyone, unless they are one of those who have the gift of helping them neighbor anyway. I recommend you find a policeman to take this guy away, he said, referring to the thief. Of course, said the lady, taking a phone out of her newly recovered bag and began dialing the police. Issei for his part untied the thief's shoelaces and with that tied his hands, just in case. The police arrived and took away the still unconscious thief. So you stopped him without using a quirk, the policeman said, looking at Issei. That's what I said, right? Issei said. Fine, but next time don't do that. That's what heroes are for. You could get hurt, the policeman commented, making Issei roll his eyes. There was no arguing. Yes, sir, officer, I won't do it again, he said, clearly lying, because when there are no heroes around, no one could stop those villains who threaten people's peace. After the policeman left in his patrol car, the lady left not without first trying to give Issei money, but he refused. But he did accept some candy that she insisted on giving him. Now the chestnut was sitting on the bench again, alone. Or well, that was until someone came up. Excuse me, that thing you did just now was amazing, said a girl who approached the brown-haired boy. Issei looked at her, bright scarlet red hair short. Huh? What do you mean? Issei asked. Are you kidding? I'm talking about the robbery just now. It was amazing to see how quickly you caught up with that guy and how you stopped him using your body as a post. That was very incredible, said the redhead, smiling cheerfully. Oh, that? Well, I don't think it's as big a deal as you make it out to be. I mean, a hero could have done that and often better, said Issei, trying to dismiss that. But you still did it, and it was great, she said, smiling. Oh, by the way, I'm Yuri Kirishima. Nice to meet you, Yuri introduced himself, smiling. Issei looked at her. It was strange for a girl to approach him, but she wouldn't be rude, and he responded to the greeting. Hyoudou Issei, nice to meet you, Kirishima-san, Issei said to the redhead who sat next to him. So they both had a little chat, with Yuri telling him that what he did was great and that he had the makings of a great hero, and also telling him that she would study at the UA because her biggest dream is to be a great heroine like his favorite hero. And you, Issei? Are you going to UA? Yuri asked, interested. Yes, I will enter the UA, said Issei. Great, I hope we apply ourselves and achieve our goals, said Yuri, smiling. The girl then received a message, checked it, and saw that it was from a friend. "Oh well, it was a good concert I see. I hope we see each other at the UA tests." Bayeri said goodbye, running away. "Sure," Bai said, Issei saying goodbye to the redhead. "Wow, but what a nice girl," he said. After that he went back to his apartment, as he saw enough of a way out. Although as he was heading back home, an idea came to his head. "I have to train so I don't have to depend on the armor while Drake wakes up," he thought, because although he had already been talking about that with Drake and had a good training routine, he wanted to be as strong as Sekiryuutei. "I'm glad he gave me the routine he usually follows to stay in shape," he thought as he returned to his apartment. Time later. Issei's apartment. "So you're telling me that you want to train your powers without any worries," Nisa commented while sitting in the living room of the apartment. The director of the UA had arrived because Issei called him, the brown-haired boy explaining his situation to him, and that. "Yes, because I always train both my physique and my powers, because in my world with so many conflicts one must be in constant training while not leaving aside responsibilities," said Issei, since Nisa understood. Well, I could solve that problem," Nisa said. "I would really appreciate it," Issei said as Nisa agreed. The director left, as he still had things to do, while Issei hoped that he could help him find a place where he could practice his fire magic. Although at least he could start with the physical training plan that Sekiryuutei prescribed for him. "Well, I have a long day ahead of me tomorrow," he said, determined not to be left without doing anything. HSDxD Universe. Underworld. Ajuka Beelzebub's main laboratory. In the Ajuka territory in the Underworld, he summoned Issei's main acquaintances, since he had some news to give. At the place was all the Hyoudou and Angra Mainyu nobility, along with Sekiryuutei, Sona, who had left her duties as leader of the Citri House for a moment, Vali and his team, along with Issei's parents, who seemed to have cried a lot. "Well, today I gathered them because I went to talk to Azazel, and I told him what happened to Hyoudou-kun, and he gave me a solution," said Ajuka, surprising everyone. Really? Can we bring Issei back?" asked Rias, her eyes red from crying. "Yes, and it is through something that Azazel, as always, was doing in secret," said Ajuka, so that a magic circle appeared 10 meters away from them, from which Sekiryuutei emerged along with a huge ring-shaped machine connected to several machines. Few understood what it was since Sona spoke. "Correct me if I'm wrong, but is that a portal?" Sona asked. "Exactly. Azazel was experimenting and guided by science fiction series. He started the Dimensional Portal project," said Sekiryuutei, approaching. "Of course I helped him, but it is not stable yet, and needs several adjustments along with a large source of energy for it to work," she commented, which gave everyone hope. "But they can bring my son, right?" asked Mickey. "Yes, Madam Hyoudou, if we manage to finish the portal, we will be able to bring back the young Sekiryuutei," said Ajuka, cheering everyone up. "We will be working to finish the portal and resolve the issue of the power source, so don't worry, we will bring Hyoudou Issei back," said Sekiryuutei. At that moment 2 people appeared. "We can help," said Office Ouroboros, sitting on a table. "We'll help," said Lilith, eating a lollipop. "Well, we have the power source sorted out," said Sekiryuutei. This is how the project that would bring Hyoudou Issei back to his world would begin. Although not everything would be easy. Dimensional gap. The dimensional gap, a space where everything that cannot withstand it is relegated to the void and destroyed. There are several things in this place, from pieces of land to legendary cities that were believed to be lost and several gogmagogs scattered around. In addition, it is the place of origin of Office Ouroboros and the place where the strongest dragon of all, Great Red, currently resides. But let's not stop there now, because at one point in the gap, a fissure began to open, and the fissure began to open wider and wider until it left a portal with strange characteristics. From this, hundreds of what appeared to be metallic humanoid beings began to emerge, along with other robots of different shapes and sizes. That only predicted problems, very serious problems. Chapter 4. The next day. 4 a.m. "Okay, I'm ready now," Issei whispered, wearing a reddish jersey with white lines and white sports shoes. He had decided to resume his daily routine, training from 4 to 6 in the morning. He left his apartment, and after going down, Surprising the night guard who didn't expect to see the brown-haired boy awake so early, Issei went running through the still dark streets. The brown-haired boy was listening to his music playlist while running. I would run for 1 hour, then go somewhere remote to try to lift heavy things, maybe the forest outside of town. So he kept running, keeping a steady pace. Several heroes who were about to finish their night rounds were surprised to see Issei running, because although they knew he was training, they did not expect to see him run at a somewhat fast and constant pace for several blocks until he disappeared from their sight. Currently Issei was running up a sloping street in the city, a street about 100 meters long, but he was cool as he listened to a great song. Issei was so wrapped up in the song that he ignored the fact that he accidentally passed someone, and that someone was very competitive. Being left behind by Issei, a beautiful young woman with long silver hair, and 2 rabbit ears, dark skin and a toned but at the same time voluptuous body, wearing training clothes, as she usually goes out to train at these hours before starting her work like a heroine. Who is she? Rumi Yasujiyama, better known as the heroine Mirko, is a tough woman who is usually known for having powerful legs with brutal strength. She just watched as the brown-haired boy ran non-stop and easily overtook her. What the hell? Was what she said, watching as Issei moved further and further away. Oh no, friend, nobody passes me just like that. I'll show that kid what I'm made of. And so she increased her speed. She quickly caught up to Issei, who looked at her and noticed how she smiled slyly. Is she challenging me? Issei thought when she smiled mockingly and passed him. Issei watched her walk away slowly, although he fixed his gaze on her. But my tastes are breasts, but that ass can be seen, he thought with a small perverted grimace, seeing the firm and hexy ass of the rabbit, and the tail only gave it a somewhat hexy touch. But he became serious. But it is not the time for that. It seems that she wants a race, and I will give it to her, thought the brown-haired girl to increase the speed and reach the albino, who surprised him. Thus the two began to have a competition, with several people looking at them in surprise, although it was more because of Issei keeping up with Rumi, although the latter was also surprised as she didn't expect the brown-haired boy to keep up with her. They were like that for half an hour. Rumi was reaching her limit while Issei, although sweating, seemed like he could continue. It wasn't until they reached a park where they both stopped, although Issei went because the alarm sounded, warning of the end of his race. Rumi took a breath as she watched Issei, who had gone to a nearby vending machine to buy water. Issei returned to her holding 2 bottles of water, one of which he offered to her, which she accepted. Not bad for a kid, Rumi said, smiling. Not bad for a rabbit, said Issei as Rumi smiled amusedly. It's rare to find fast guys, although I imagine it was because of using your quirk, which you should know is illegal, she said seriously. Well, let me tell you that no, it is not part of any quirk. That speed has been cultivated through pure daily training for a year and a little more, said Issei, remembering the first moment he started training until now. It sounds too surprising to be true, Rumi said, because in the end she could be lying. Well, it is, but well, it was a pleasure to run against a strong and beautiful woman. We'll see each other another time, because I have to follow the next part of my routine, said Issei, and before she could stop him I ran away. Rumi watched him leave, surprised as he didn't look tired. Anyway, next time I won't make it so easy for him, said Rumi, resting a bit before continuing training. Well, I think this is where I could start, Issei said, far from the city, in the mountains to the east. He quickly looked for a stone of considerable size. Although it was difficult, he found it. It was about 3 meters long and weighed almost 400 kilos. So as best he could, he carried her on his back and began to climb the small mountain. It was a bit complicated, not because of the weight, but because he had to maneuver in unexplored terrain, and it was somewhat uncomfortable to hold the large stone. Up and down, about 5 times until he got tired given how complicated the path was for him. Now he was sitting on the top of the mountain about 70 meters high, looking at the panorama of Mundo. Phew, what a view, Issei commented calmly. He stayed there for about 15 minutes, until he decided to return to his apartment, since all that training had made him hungry, and he was going to change and then go to a restaurant for breakfast. 20 minutes later. Issei was now eating at a small family restaurant. He was eating in quantity but with manners, surprising the people who were there having breakfast. Hunger is something that bothers dragons a lot, and he was more dragon than demon because of his body and powers. Well, I have to practice my fire magic, but the question is, where? Issei thought while eating. At that point a message fell on his phone, and he got confused because of it. He looked at the message and saw that it was from Nizu. He told him to go to UA in the afternoon, since he already had the place where he could train using his powers without anyone seeing him. Wow, that was very fast, Issei dinked while drinking his juice. After paying for his meal, he went back to his apartment. There he began to kill time by exercising more, because he did not want to waste any time. In the end, he is not even human and would have more benefits than harms by training more. After hours, Issei took the subway to a station near UA, where he walked for a while until he reached the entrance, where Nizu and Aizawa were waiting for him. Issei approached them. "Good afternoon, I came as you asked me," said Issei, greeting them both. "Good afternoon, young Hyoudou. Well, as I told you in the message, I have already found a place for you where you can train your powers," said Nizu. "And where will that be?" Issei asked. "Here at UA," Aizawa said, surprising Issei. "As Professor Aizawa said, I have renovated a gym that has been disused for a long time, so there you can train your powers. I did it in case you received one of All Might's attacks," Nizu said, surprising Issei. "Wow, that was very fast," said Issei. "Well, you know what they say, hurry up if you missed the wrong step. I thought about reusing something that wasn't in use, so let's go to the place and have this, show it to the security, and they'll let you pass," said Bo, giving him a blue card, with white similar to student cards. Issei took it and put it in his wallet. Thus the three advanced. Since the campus was large, Aizawa took them to the place in his car. Issei looked carefully at what the UA was like, seeing that it was huge, as there were several buildings apart from where the students are. Nizu was telling him that one of the buildings was home, and Issei was learning them, because in the end, he will most likely end up studying here for a while. After a while they arrived at the link, a somewhat large building that seemed to be reinforced. They got out of the car and went to the entrance of the car. They walked in and Issei saw how spacious it was. "Well, this is the building, you see. This is reinforced to withstand one of All Might's powerful impacts, plus it is earthquake-proof and fire-proof given your powers," Nizu explained. Aizawa on his side was moving some somewhat old practice dummies and putting them in order now. "I need to see what you can do. Because that thing about magic caught my attention and I want to see how it works firsthand," he said, and Issei agreed. The chestnut walked and stood in front of the dolls, about 5 meters away. Aizawa and Nizu looked at him intently. Issei began to charge fire in his lungs. He attempted to inhale a large amount of air, and then released the flame. Nizu and Aizawa were surprised, as they thought the attack was going to be smaller, but it turned out to be like a huge wave of fire. Issei for his part remembers how he had to improve the dragon flame, as it took too long to charge, but thanks to Draeg's instructions and a class on how dragons made flames, he could now create devastating flames. The dolls were burned, leaving only the red-hot frames. In addition, everything behind them remained black. Issei stopped, not wanting to damage the place either. "Wow, that was more than I expected," Nizu said. "It's like Endeavor," Aizawa commented. "True, although this is magic according to young Hyoudou," said Nizu. "Yes, it is magic. This attack is called Dragon Flare. This is on a smaller scale, because when I fight seriously, let's say I could cover about 50 meters in length," said Issei, remembering when he improved that attack for the first time it was total chaos that had to be controlled by Rosweiss and Akino using water magic. "And you have more magical abilities?" Nizu asked. "Well, I have other fire attacks that I perform so as not to have the same, but if you are referring to others, well, I have great speed," said Issei, to use the power of the night and disappear in a blur of speed and be behind the two adults who were surprised because it was barely noticed. "I also have great strength," he said, to go and take several weights that were there and lift them easily, that being like 300 kilos. He was grateful to have been carrying huge stones as part of his training, and that would be all, he said, because he would not show the balance breaker either. "Wow, that's really impressive. Magic, strength and speed. You're someone amazing," young Hyoudou said. Nizu, as it seemed like he had more than one quirk, but no, it was obvious that that was part of him. No, I'm not impressive because in my world there are more impressive guys who can sweep away islands, countries, and even entire continents in a brutal way, said Issei. Your world sounds like something extremely troublesome and dangerous, Aizawa said seriously. Yes, it is dangerous, but isn't this world? Well, I was watching the news and noticed the large number of villains there are, along with cases outside of Japan, such as the United States, Russia, and all of Latin America. This world like mine has its problems, said Issei. Although he also wouldn't tell them what he discovered on the bad side of the internet, which he could access thanks to his phone, he saw unpleasant things, but nothing that doesn't happen in his world. True, danger will always be present no matter where you are, that's life, said Nizu, but well, you can come here and you can also stop by the cafeteria for breakfast if you want, that way you'll get used to UA by the time classes start, he said, smiling. Although remember that there will be an entrance test, so I hope you are ready, because it will not be easy although taking into account your abilities, it may be, said Aizawa. Of course, I will do my best to enter, since they have done a lot for me to be in this world, said Issei, smiling. So they left, Issei coming after finishing his daily exercise routine. As Issei left the academy, Nizu and Aizawa watched him leave. He's quite a peculiar boy, Nizu said. True, if it weren't for the fact that he fell from a portal according to Tashinori, I would say that it is some experiment by all for one, said Aizawa as Nizu became serious. Yes, but at least we know that he is a normal boy as far as this place is concerned, and I can say that with his powers he could become a great hero, said Nizu, relaxing his expression. Yes, although it seems that he was already one where he came from, said Aizawa. They then went back to doing their things, while Issei calmly walked back to his apartment. Thus ending this day for Issei, where he met a peculiar woman and now has a place where he can train. Chapter 5. 1 week later. UA Gym. In the middle of the gym that Nizu got for Issei, he was sitting in the lotus position while seeming to be concentrating. What did I do? Simple, he was trying to access the control of the Tuki, to strengthen his body and take it to unknown limits. With the brief explanation that Kuroka and Seror gave him, added to wanting to copy his favorite series, Issei was in that position since the first Sung Wukong told him that this way he could access more easily. He had already been doing it for 2 hours, so he decided to start with that, and although it was difficult, it was necessary to improve his physique. At that, he suddenly opened his eyes. I finally did it, he whispered, looking at his hands, and his body was covered by a thin layer of whitish energy. But then he fell on his back, tired and sweating. This is tired, he said, feeling as if he had run a 100-kilometer marathon carrying 10 tons. It took him half an hour to recover, because according to what his 2 experts told him, the first time he used Tuki he drained all his strength, but he would know how it felt, and the more he used it, the easier and simpler it would become. After recovering more or less, he decided to stop training there, as he felt too tired. He left the place, locking it with the key Nizu gave him, and then got on the bicycle he brought, because although he could run there, it was better to use a bicycle. I drive calmly towards the main exit of the UA. On his way he passed through the sports field, seeing several students in physical education classes using their quirks. Issei still found quirks fascinating, and knowing what Azazel, Sahariel, or Ajuka were like, they would investigate everything related to them, even the dark secrets. He reached the entrance, said goodbye to the guards who were heroes, and left. He handled his bike carefully, as he still felt tired. If Rumi-san saw me, she would make fun of me, he said, remembering his now army partner, the beautiful Yusujiyama Rumi. For Issei, she is a woman with an interesting quirk, although he clearly recognized her as the rabbit heroine Mirko. Well, she is not Superman, who at least in one comic gave him an explanation of why no one knew he was Clark Kent. The thing is that she sees Issei as a rival, and she admits that the speed he charges at is natural given his physique, because for her, as the world is, it would not be strange for there to be subjects who possess physical characteristics greater than the average human. They both usually meet at 4 in a coexistence store where they start their routine, a routine that starts as a quiet jog to become a race that ends with Issei beating the rabbit who was upset about that, and more so when she sees him doing more physical exercise than her. Although they get along well, he respects her for doing her job as a heroine and having great strength along with a very decisive and combative attitude, while she respects Issei's strength and sees how he selflessly helps people, because on his training path Issei has gone out of his way to help with random things like helping cats or dogs, to prevent assaults on people who came home from work late at night. After a somewhat long journey, Issei arrived at the apartment building, took his bike up the elevator and arrived at his apartment. After leaving the bike where it wouldn't be in the way, he threw himself down on the couch and turned on the television. He saw several things, a series similar to Dragon Ball, the news where several heroes stopped events of great interest, also interviews with heroes who are the focus of attention, and so on. He didn't know what time it was, but he ended up falling asleep. The good thing was that he had set his phone's alarm for every day of the week. The next day, 4 a.m. At a convenience store, Rumi was drinking a coffee she bought inside while waiting for Issei. "Good morning," greeted the brown-haired boy arriving with a black sweater. "Good morning, you took a while," the brunette mentioned to the brown-haired boy. "Well, let's say that yesterday I overdid it, and ended up very tired. I had to eat something before coming because I couldn't even have dinner," said Issei, remembering Tuki's explosion that left him exhausted. "Well, you should worry about your health and not overexert yourself," said Rumi, because she knew that better than anyone. "Yes, although it's nothing serious. It won't happen again," said Issei. "Well, if you say so," said Rumi. "So, shall we begin?" Issei asked, smiling. "Sure, but you owe me breakfast for being late," said Rumi. "Well, but only if you beat me," Issei said, smiling, making her look at him annoyed. "No, you always win, so buy me breakfast, and there are no buts that are worth it," she said, complaining, because she knew that Issei was faster than her. "Boo, boring, but okay, then we'll go to a good restaurant that I know. They have good breakfasts there," said Issei, remembering the restaurant he goes to before going to UA. So the two began to run moderately while chatting about their day, with Rumi being the one who talked the most, telling Issei about how difficult the previous day was at work. 2 hours later. Restaurant. You were right, these pancakes are delicious," said Rumi, eating a huge stack of pancakes. "See, that's why I always come here to eat," said Issei, eating twice as many pancakes as Rumi. "Are you really going to eat all that?" she said incredulously. "Yeah, well, my metabolism pays off big time," said Issei, because his dragon metabolism made him eat a lot, but he wasn't a scion either, Saber or Luffy. "Isn't it part of your quirk?" she asked, because she was curious about Issei's quirk. "Let's say it's related," said Issei, as he will pass off his powers as a quirk. "Well, that would explain a lot," said Rumi. So the two had breakfast between chats until it was time to say goodbye, as she would go to work and Issei would go take a shower and then go to UA. He was listening to some music that he really liked. The brown-haired boy did his daily routine, took a bath, went to UA, trained his powers a little and finally returned to Tuki's, ending up tired. In the afternoon he returned to his apartment. "I'll have to start developing my powers as a dragon. Drake said it would be necessary in the future in case I couldn't use the boosted gear, and he was right. Because of Luffy's old friend I almost got killed," said Issei, remembering when his perversion was taken away from him, and that diminished his powers a lot. Drake had told him that since he was a dragon, he should develop his powers as such as transforming into a dragon or adopting a dragonified form, as that would help maximize his powers. The training would not be easy, but the results could be amazing. After thinking that, I decided to stop by a convenience store to buy some groceries. With his purchases, he headed to his apartment, but someone crossed his path. A guy who was running like crazy while wearing a balaclava and carrying a large bag on his back. "Catch the thief," shouted a man who Issei knew worked at a nearby electronics store. People just moved out of the way, since the thief was using a rare quirk that spilled some kind of corrosive liquid on the ground, and in order not to get hurt, they decided to move away. In addition, that street was rarely traveled by heroes. Issei knew this since he always takes this path to his apartment since he arrived here, and he has only managed to see 2 heroes passing by every 2 hours for a walk. Issei saw the subject's despair, as it was obvious that this would possibly hit him hard. Issei sighed, Taking advantage of everyone's distraction and the fact that there were no cameras around, he entered a small alley. There I quickly put his stuff away in a storage dimension. I know I shouldn't, but it's this or let that guy get away with it, and that's something I have no plans to do, said Issei, summoning the boosted gear. It's time to be a hero balance breaker, and so it began. A strong green glow covered the alley, and then the mythical armor that has accompanied him for a year and a half appeared. And he quickly took flight, leaving a green trail behind him. Already in the sky it was seen by passers-by who were shocked, because they never expected to see something like that. Issei focused on his thing and searched for the thief, locating him a few streets away, following a specific path which was little traveled. Not on my guard, idiot, said Issei before disappearing in a reddish blur, shocking everyone. Although Issei didn't know it, it had already been recorded or photographed by several people. The thief ran away laughing, because after planning well, he managed to rob that electronics store. Well, with this I can buy medicine for Yoshino, said the thief, because by selling what he stole he could get money for his sick wife. At that, Issei stood in front of him, causing him to crash into him loudly. The thief fell into the sky, and looked frightened at the armor before him, and in fear he released a lot of that corrosive substance onto it. No shit, the thief shouted in fear, because his goal was to steal, not to harm anyone. But to his relief and surprise, nothing happened to the armor. Fine, let's do this the easy way or the hard way, Issei said with his voice modified thanks to the armor's helmet. Please don't hurt me. I just wanted to get some money for my wife. She's sick and needs medicine urgently, said the scared man. Issei saw it. How could he know it was true? Although there were cases like that, he wouldn't know if this was one of them, since there are thieves who try to arouse pity in order to get away with it in front of good-hearted people. How do I know you're not lying to me? Issei asked seriously. The thief screamed in fear as he stepped back a little, and began to tremble, as he felt that something extremely dangerous was before him. I swear it's true, my wife is sick, I need the medicine to help with her treatment, said the thief with tears threatening to come out of his eyes. Issei saw him, saw his eyes, saw that he wanted to cry. He didn't know if he was a good actor or if he was telling the truth. There are other ways to get money, Issei said. I had no choice. I was fired from my damn job due to staff cuts. I haven't found a job. My severity went to pay bills and get a little of my wife's medicine, shouted the desperate thief. Although he knew there was no way out, he would go to jail. Issei sighed. He didn't know if he was stupid or not, but he decided to trust this guy. I'll let you go, but that bag stays with me. I have to return it. You may be in need, but you shouldn't affect others to solve said needs either, Issei said seriously. The thief sighed, shed tears, but still took off the bag where he had what he stole. Issei looked at him. Listen, I know you're having a hard time. My parents also had hard times, but stealing is not an option. No matter how good your intentions are, in the end you are committing a crime that will take you to jail and away from your wife, who could be left without any help. When you go to do someone else act like that. Think about her, and what would happen if they take you to prison, said Issei, being that the thief lowered his gaze, to take off his balaclava, revealing a middle-aged man, with black hair but with several beds, a scruffy beard and prominent dark circles. That was enough for Issei to feel that the guy was telling the truth. I won't do it again, said the man, feeling bad, because imagining what would happen to his wife if he wasn't there for her was something horrible, because her death was always a final result that he visualized if he was arrested. Issei summoned a small bag from his storage dimension, a brown leather bag with the Gremory symbol on it. Here, sell this. You can probably survive for a long time while you get a job, and take care of your wife. Because few men are willing to commit crimes for their loved ones, said Issei after leaving in front of the man some solid gold rings that he had, because by recommendation of both Drake, Vala and Azazel, having jewelry that is worth a lot could help him in case he runs out of money. Although it was good that Nizi gave him money, and he will pay for his apartment just by attending UA. The man saw the rings and took them with his trembling hands, because something like that was worth at least dollars easily. You better get out of here somewhere. They might have called some hero to settle this matter, said Issei, passing by the subject and taking the bag with the stolen merchandise. Issei started to leave, strangely feeling good about what he did. Thank you. I swear on my life that I will never make a mistake like this again, the man shouted, crying at the gesture Issei showed towards him. "I hope you do it very well," said Issei, leaving the place. The man left, following his escape route, being cautious, and luckily, he managed to successfully escape. "Thank you for bringing the merchandise. My boss would have scolded me badly for this," said the employee, bowing several times in gratitude. "Don't worry, even though that guy ran away, it was good that he dropped that when he saw me. But check that they don't have any damage, although they possibly have insurance for that," said Issei, and the man agreed. Then Issei looked around, seeing how several people were looking at him in wonder, mostly boys and girls accompanying their parents. He was clearly being recorded and photographed, mentally scolding himself for it, as he lacked the versatility to download those images from the internet, since he did not pay attention to Ajuka when he explained when he was showing him the functions of his phone. "By the way, what's your name?" "This is the first time I've seen you," the employee asked. "Well, I am," he thought for a few seconds. "What's done is done, so there's no other way. You can call me Sekiryuutei." And after saying that, Issei levitated gently, and then flew away quickly. That day, those who photographed and recorded Issei spread it on the internet, and it was obviously the focus of attention both on social media and in the news. Meanwhile, Issei had found a lonely place under the armor, being the roof of a building that had a fire escape. I go downstairs and walk back to his apartment. I really screwed up. Drake would already be calling me an idiot and fool for what I did, HSDxD, and I don't blame him, because I also think that what I did was very impulsive, thought Issei while walking with his purchases in hand. On his way, he saw something very peculiar. It was a boy with green hair and freckles, who was with a blonde girl with a good body who hugged the boy's left arm, who smiled. Both were happily talking. Issei remembered his moments with the girls. "How I miss my home," Issei thought, continuing on his somewhat melancholic way. And so another day would end for Issei, who still hopes to return home. Ignoring why Sekiryuutei would be a topic that would be touched on for a long time. Chapter 6. 1 week later. Jim Yue. Issei was in the lotus position with his eyes closed, while a thin layer of Tuki covered him. He has been doing the same routine since he awakened the Tuki, and little by little he has managed to adapt to it, feeling less wear and tear every time he used it. If there's one thing Issei knows, it's that he's being recorded, as he managed to notice the small cameras thanks to his cell phone. It would bother him, but he imagined it was a security measure on Nisa's part. He was grateful that at least there wasn't one in his apartment. Issei opened his eyes and stood up, looking and feeling the power running through his body. He started doing some movements, throwing punches and kicks, nothing serious. He wanted to try something and approached one of the practice dummies. Although with his normal strength he could destroy them, he wanted to see what he could do while relaxed but covered in Tuki. "Well, I hope for good results," Issei whispered. He retracted his left arm and threw a soft punch towards the doll's chest. It was a big surprise when the doll broke from the blow. It was impressive, but Tuki's thin layer fell apart, and he got tired. HSDxD, wow, that was HSDxD impressive," said Issei, surprised by the power of the Tuki. Although having seen Sekiryuutei use it, that surprise went away. He went to one of the nearby benches, grabbed his backpack and took out a rehydration drink which he drank. Then he sat on the sideline thinking. "This is a bit tiring, but I have to master it. Kuroka already told me it would take time, but the results were going to be more than satisfactory," Issei thought. After a while he felt better. He thought about leaving, but he wanted to do something. "According to Drake, I can turn my parts into those of a dragon. What if?" he thought, and then put his plan into action. He stood in the middle of the gym and closed his eyes, concentrating his power on his limbs, and little by little something surprising happened. Director's office. Nizu, as usual, was watching Issei train. He found it fascinating to see what he did, and seeing how he destroyed a doll with a light blow while covered in that strange energy. It was like seeing Toshinori attack seriously. He was about to turn off what he was watching since Issei usually left at this time, but seeing him return to the center of the gym made him continue watching. He was drinking a cup of coffee, but when he saw what Issei did, he spit the coffee onto the computer monitor. "But what?" Nizu shouted in astonishment. Well, what the screen reflected was something he didn't think Issei could do. There, Standing in the middle of the gym was Issei, but different, because both his arms and legs were covered in reddish scales, like a reptile. His fingers had claws and part of his neck and face had those scales, giving him a wilder appearance. Impressive, the UA director whispered it was a good thing that his computer was fluid-proof and heat-resistant. I would ask about that later. Issei being in this form, he felt strange. He felt like his physical power rose more. It was strange. Could this be releasing his dragon side? Before, he used to dragonify some of his parts to be able to hold sacred objects, or defend himself from them, but he didn't see the need to use this at this point. He looked at his arms, completely scaly and with claws on each finger. He was thankful that he took off his shoes earlier, because right now they were destroyed since he now had claws on his feet, although it wasn't like having dragon legs. How strong will I be? I whisper. He went to look for one of the weights that had been left for him, and since he put together one of 500 kilos, he could lift more weight. Since Rias was a slave driver when he came to training, now he knows why Kaneko could lift an African elephant if she got serious. The brown-haired boy sighed and lifted the bar with his weights. He was pleasantly surprised to feel no resistance, as it was very easy for him to lift the weight, so much so that he did something awesome. Yes, it was definitely stronger than before. Well, I'll have to train this too, he said, lowering the weight and putting it back in its place. Now he would leave. He wanted to get to his apartment and relax, because overexerting his body could be counterproductive for him. The brown-haired boy left, unaware that Nisa spit coffee on his computer monitor again after seeing what Issei did, because for him, a boy doing that being so young, was very impressive. Shortly after, Issei walked calmly through the streets of Mizurufu, watching people pass by. Even the topic of Sekiryuutei was something that people talked about. Why? Well, because Issei decided to go out on patrol in the afternoons when he returned to his apartment. Thanks to that, several heroes followed him to catch him, since he was obviously breaking the law on quirks, since they thought that Issei's armor was just his disguise. Although on internet forums that were created around Sekiryuutei, there were divided opinions. Some said he was some kind of clown who was breaking the law, and that he should leave that job to the professionals, since the vigilantes only hindered the work of licensed heroes. Although a large portion of people were supporting him, while it was bad that he acted as a hero without a license, his actions were for a greater good, and he became popular among children. It was a bit odd, but he felt strangely satisfied playing the hero, even though he's not a hero, because in the end, heroes don't kill unless you're from DC, because in Marvel they killed, although yes, he knew that killing was bad and would just do what Batman did, beat them until they were unconscious. Anyway, he went on his way since thinking about the subject of heroes and laws was crap, and his mother-in-law gave him a tutor to learn the laws of the underworld. Anyway, with that he went to the apartment to rest. Mizurufu, night. It was nighttime in the city of Mizurufu, and at this time crime was more prevalent than at night. Through some dark alleys in the bad part of the city, a group of thugs with quirks ran scared. Shit, said one of the guys who had reptile parts. Why did that guy have to appear? Asked another guy with a larger body, frightened. There were 5 of them. They were going to rob a jewelry store. It was simple. They had everything planned, since they had been planning this robbery for weeks. But everything was cut short the moment he appeared. The subjects were about to reach the exit of the alley, when something planted itself strongly in front of them. They stopped, frightened. A pair of green eyes shone through the darkness. That thing was almost 2 meters tall and made a metallic sound with every step it took. It's him, one of the thugs shouted in fear. You are as slippery as rats. This was Issei in his Sekiryuutei role. He went out to roam at night since knowing how things are more or less handled. Now with quirks, the thieves were more dangerous than normal. It was luck to find these guys almost starting a robbery. Issei didn't wait any longer and attacked. The subjects were scared, and the big man of the group stood in front of his companions, hardening his body like rock. But that was of no use. A powerful blow from Issei broke his defense, knocking the guy unconscious and scaring his companions. "Mo monster," shouted one of the thieves. Issei didn't say anything. It was normal to feel fear in such desperate situations, and it's not like his actions would help in that. Issei was going to continue, but he received a powerful kick that he covered with his left forearm, and although it didn't affect him, it did move him. Issei looked at who it was inside. He didn't expect to find her in this situation. "Come on, idiot, I've heard a lot about you lately, and you better get caught because what you're doing is wrong," said Rumi in her heroine role, Mirko. "Get out of the way, they're getting away," said Issei, pointing out how the guys started running while one of them easily pulled the big guy. Mirko saw that, and the brown-haired boy in armor took advantage of that to move at such speed that it was barely perceptible as a reddish blur passing by the rabbit. Issei was quick, he hit each one to leave them unconscious. Then, using his phone with an advanced system of unknown calls and without tracking problems, he called the police, giving the location of where the subjects were. But now he couldn't, because Mirko attacked him again with a powerful kick that he easily stopped with his hand. "Stop, I don't want to hurt you," said Issei, because he didn't want to. She was his friend even though she doesn't know who he was. "Wow, how interesting. Well, I want to hit you," shouted Mirko, who wouldn't let the illegal guard get away. Issei sighed. He knew that this woman would not stop, as she was known for not stopping to catch villains even if it was meant to lose her own physical integrity. She threw kicks and punches masterfully, taking advantage of her elasticity that she had gained over the years. Although she was starting to get frustrated when Issei only easily dodged or stopped any of her blows. Issei had to hurry. Nothing assured him that more heroes would come, and although in his current state he could dominate a fight against Tashinori, he doesn't want to be seen as a threat after beating up several heroes. So he did the best. "You're a good rabbit, but I'm not here to fight heroes, I'm here to catch criminals, so if you have TV, there you go." Issei, using the boosted gear gems, created a powerful green flash that shielded the woman. "Ugh, damn it, you won't escape," she screamed, but it was too late. Issei wasn't in front of her. "TCH, next time he won't escape," she said, annoyed to see the unconscious guys. Issei was on a building several blocks from the place. It was the first time he met a hero like that. Although he didn't expect it to be Rumi of all the heroes there were, he even thought that one day he would meet All Might. "Well, I better stay a little longer and then go to sleep," and with that he took flight to stop more criminals who are criminals, that is, who commit crimes for their own pleasure. It was 2 hours of pure fighting, including having to escape from a heroine he recognized as the dragon heroine Ryukyu, but nothing he couldn't handle. Now Issei was in a dark alley a few blocks from the building where he lived. He had left at 6 when the sun was no longer in the sky. He usually returned late with the excuse that he was still training at night. He returned to the apartment and went to bed. He had a long way ahead of him. He wouldn't know when Drake would wake up, but he hoped it wouldn't take long. 2 months later. UA Gym. Inside the usual gym, Issei was sitting in the lotus position, but there was something very different about him. A white aura covered him, but this time more so than before. It was Tuki. These 2 months of pure training had given great results. He was now stronger, more resistant, and faster. Mastering life energy was hard and expensive, but the results were brutal. While he also remembered training his dragonoid form, as he called it, being that now, in addition to being able to maintain it longer, he greatly expanded his attacks and strength. Regarding fire magic, he has developed a larger repertoire, as he did not want to throw out the same old thing, and now he has a better repertoire. Now, the brown-haired boy was doing push-ups with a 4-ton iron plate on his back, since physical training using Tuki would improve his strength a lot. At that, someone entered the place, making Issei stop his training. They were Nisa and Tashinori. Although they were not alone, a boy with green hair and freckles was with them, looking at Issei in surprise. "Hello, young Hyoudou. We apologize for interrupting your training, but we want to talk to you about something," said Nisa. "I imagine it has to do with him," said Issei, looking at the green-haired boy. "Yes, you see, we want to ask you in favor," said Nisa. At that, Tashinori stood before Issei in his muscular form and bowed. "Hyoudou Shonen, please train Midoriya Shonen," Tashinori requested, surprising Issei. This was a surprise to him, although Izuku was also taken by surprise. That would be the first meeting between the future hero and the Red Dragon. Chapter 7. Shortly after. "Let me see if I understand. The quirk that you possess can be inherited, becoming stronger with each generation, and now he has that quirk, being the 9th bearer, am I correct? Asked Issei sitting on a bench in the gym. Toshinori, Nizu, and Izuku, who was silent, were sitting on the bench as well. Yes, that's right. One for All is a unique and special quirk that is passed on to those who have that spark to be a great hero, and young Midoriya showed me that he has what it takes to be my successor, said Toshinori. I understand, then you have been training him so that his body is conditioned to withstand the quirk, said Issei, and Toshinori acknowledged, but does he already have One for All? He asked. No, for that he needs to train his body, so that when he uses it he doesn't get hurt, because he could explode if he does, said Toshinori seriously. But wouldn't that be counterproductive? I mean, he also has to train the quirk, because if he uses it, and tries to imitate one of his attacks, he could even lose an arm even with training, said Issei, because he has seen what All Might is capable of, and that is part of the OFA. So he doubted that Izuku could withstand something like that even if he trains his body for 10 months. Toshinori began to think he was right, since he had only been focusing on improving his body. If he gets the quirk, could he explode, or is it if he uses the quirk in a bad way? Issei asked. Well, in fact I could give him the quirk, nothing would happen to him, it's just that if he uses it it could be harmful to his body, commented Toshinori. Let him know. I think I could help him, said Issei as he looked at Izuku, who already had a well-worked body for having trained for 2 months or so. Toshinori was hesitant, not wanting Izuku to get hurt. Do it, young Hyoudou knows what he's doing, Nizu said, trusting Issei's judgment. Izuku was nervous and confused, nervous because he may end up receiving his idol's gift, but he could also get hurt if he misuses it, and confused since he didn't know Issei from anywhere but they trusted him. HAA, okay, said Toshinori with a decision already made, then he cut a lock of his hair and looked at Izuku. Young Midoriya, finish this, he said while passing his hair. Issei and Izuku were confused, especially the former. All Might, what's that for? Izuku asked. Well, for me to have my quirk you need to have my DNA in you, so eat that hair and wait for it to digest, said the blonde, as Izuku took the hair and after looking at it for a few seconds, he swallowed item. But what a way to spend a powerful quirk! Issei thought with a poker face at the way that happened. After they waited for this, the hair would be digested by gastric acid. Well, young Midoriya, tell me, do you feel something different about yourself? Asked Toshinori. I feel the same way, Izuku said, confused. Well, let's try something. Come with me, young Midoriya, said Toshinori. Izuku followed him to the center of the gym under the gaze of Nizu and Issei, the latter being interested in what would happen. Well, young Midoriya, you see, when you obtain One for All for the first time, if you concentrate you will feel a strange sensation. You will feel as if a powerful source of energy is flowing through your body which mixes with your muscles, giving them more strength. The problem is that if your muscles are not strong enough to resist the power, well, you could cause irreversible damage to them, commented Toshinori seriously. Izuku was surprised, as he didn't expect the OFA to be this dangerous. Now I would like you to concentrate so that you can feel said energy, Toshinori asked. Sure, Izuku said to do what he was asked. The green hair closed his eyes and concentrated on feeling that energy. Seconds passed and then minutes, when suddenly, Izuku managed to see between the darkness of his closed eyes 7 lights of different colors along with the dimmer one, so that then that feeling of power flooded him, but it went away quickly when he felt a wave of pain throughout his body. Ugh, Izuku complained, falling to his knees. Young Midoriya, Toshinori said worriedly. Wow, you can tell it hurts him, said Issei looking at the hurt green-haired boy. Strangely, seeing him like this reminded him of when he first entered the supernatural world, wanting more power to protect Rias. Giving his arm to drag led him to feel a horrible pain in his left arm. Issei approached them, extending his hand to the boy. Are you okay? Issei asked. Izuku saw him and accepted his help. Thanks, I feel better. It was just a momentary pain, nothing more, said Izuku. By the way, my name is Hyoudou Issei, but you can call me Issei or Issei, as you wish. Nice to meet you, Issei introduced himself with a friendly smile. Nice to meet you, Issei-san. I'm Midoriya Izuku. You can call me Izuku if you like, Izuku said with his own smile. Then Issei saw the worried blonde. Listen, Yagi-san, I don't know what kind of training Izuku underwent with you, but I will give him a regimen that was imposed on me to be stronger. But for him it will be softer, since if we go to what they made me go through, he will possibly die, said Issei, scaring Izuku and surprising the blonde. What kind of training was that, young Hyoudou? Niza asked, interested. Well, it started with running 10 kilometers carrying 10 kilos on me, and little by little that increased until I can currently carry 200 kilos on me to run, said Issei. Astonishing the three of them, there was also climbing a mountain of about 100 meters carrying a large stone of almost half a ton on me 3 times going up and down, he said, remembering the training for the raiding game, although the stone weighed more than he said. By this point all three were in disbelief. How the hell could he lift something like that? And the basics, push-ups, sit-ups and squats, 100 of each and carrying weight on your back, said Issei. Of course, he would skip his vacation training with Tannen and running for his life so as not to be killed by the meteor flame dragon. Wow, just wow, said Toshinori, because he did that but when he started with the OFA. Well, we will leave young Midoriya in your hands. We believe that with that training you will be able to help him a lot, said Nizu. Of course, don't worry, director. I will help you and Izuku in this, because it seems to be something very important, Issei said seriously. Izuku didn't say anything. Well, he had questions for Issei, but he could wait until he started his training. Issei looked at the boy. Well, Izuku, I think I once saw you walking with a girl near where I live, so I imagine you pass by there regularly. That's why I'll be waiting for you at the Nagi Street Conviviality store at 5 a.m. I get up an hour earlier, but for the training you're going to undergo, that hour will be good, said Issei. Oh, I know where it is, then I'll go there on time, said Izuku. He was anxious, because if Toshinori and the director believed in Issei, it's because he would be good. Well, with that already agreed, we let you continue with your training, young Hyoudou, said Niza. True, come on, young Midoriya. You must go rest and prepare yourself, because young Hyoudou will make it harder for you than me, said Toshinori, leaving the green-haired man in shock. They then left, leaving Issei alone, who sighed. Well, at least the hard training I underwent will be able to help someone else, Issei said, smiling, then returned to his training while releasing Tuki. Evening. Issei was back in his Sekiryuutei role. Like every night, he went out to see what he could find here. I was in the southern area of Mizudafu. I had heard that area had a lot of nighttime crimes. And they were right, because in half an hour he was in charge of one robbery, an attempted rape, and a subject being killed by a hitman. He wondered where the heroes were when one needed them. Well, there were heroes, but they were few compared to other places of public interest, because in the end, most heroes wanted to make a name for themselves rather than perform what it means to be a true hero. In the end, he was in charge of stopping the crimes that happened there. The brown-haired boy decided to leave everything for that night. He had to see how to start Izuku's training, so he better went to rest. He got down from the building where he was, falling into a lonely alley, and quickly dismantled his armor. Well, we better get back, he said, starting to walk. I was going to look for a point to disappear using a magic circle. He was about to do so until the sound of something alarmed him. I quickly looked for the source of the sound, in case he got caught in the act while he was thinking about other things. He went to one side of the alley and nothing. Confused, he went to the other side and found something that surprised him. But what the hell? He said, alarmed. He quickly saw what had happened to her. He checked her body for any signs of abuse. But nothing. All her clothes were in place, and the only serious things were several bruises and cuts on her body, cuts that apparently were fresh. I noticed a trail of blood, several drops. Something normal in alleys in this area. He thought about what to do. If he takes her to a hospital it will be solved, but there they will ask him for information and he would have to explain to Nizu what the hell he was doing at night so far from home. So I went for option 2 and the quickest one. He takes the unconscious and bleeding girl in his arms, staining himself with blood in the process, to create a magic circle and goes straight to her apartment. He quickly left the girl on the floor, looked for something to cover the sofa, and then laid her down on it. Immediately, he magically accessed his storage space, where he searched for a while and then took out his hand while holding a small jar. I removed the cap from the bottle and bring it close to the girl's mouth. I placed the bottle on her lips and poured the reddish liquid into her mouth. He covered his mouth in case he had the reaction of spitting out the liquid, and was thankful that he didn't choke, as within seconds Phoenix's tears took effect. Her body was covered in a golden glow, her wounds closed, and she gained a more peaceful, though still inconsiderate, look. Issei sighed. Now he had to clean her, and that made him nervous. He began to debate whether to do it or not, because he didn't want to look like a pig. Gulp, no way, he said nervously, going to get a bucket with clean water, another empty one, and a cloth. He came back and then looked at the girl. He got more nervous, because he might like to see naked girls and such, but one thing is imagining it and another is doing it. Besides, he doesn't have her consent and only acts under that principle to do things. I'll apologize later, he said to himself as he began to undress the girl. In the end, he left her only in her underwear, a normal white underwear, although Issei had to admit that she had a good body and her fair skin gave more points to her beauty. He quickly pushed those thoughts away and began to clean the girl where the blood was. It was tortuous, because he didn't know where to look, so he did it carefully, in case the girl woke up and got upset with him for this. After 30 minutes Issei finished. He had cleaned the girl and then went to look for some of her clothes to put on her while he put into practice a piece of advice Vali gave him to clean clothes stained with blood. Once dressed, he went and laid her down on her bed, then he started washing the girl's clothes in the washing machine and went to sit in the living room. Well, after getting the clothes ready, I'll go to sleep, said Issei, watching television. They were showing an interesting anime on TV. So after an hour where he left the girl's damaged clothes next to her bed, the brown-haired boy looked for a pillow and a blanket to go to the couch. He laid down and closed his eyes. Tomorrow would be another day. And what a day! Chapter 8. Hours later. Early morning. There was still a while left before Issei woke up and started his daily routine. He was fast asleep on the couch in the living room. The silence was present. You could barely hear the creaking of the wooden floor. When he does that, he suddenly opens his eyes and stops a point-blank attack. He held his attacker's forearm firmly, looking seriously at the now recovered girl who was trying to break free from his grip. I was expecting a thank you, not a stab in the face, Issei said, sitting down as he took the kitchen knife out of the girl's hand. Let go, you hurt me, she complained, smiling in pain where Issei was holding her. Does it hurt? I don't give a damn. Now tell me, why were you going to stab me even though I was the one who took you out of that dirty alley where there was possibly someone dead or abused by some guy? Issei asked, squeezing harder. I'm sorry, let me go, please, the girl complained, knowing that Issei would have broken her arm a long time ago if he wanted to. No weird tricks, Issei said, squeezing harder. Yes, I promise, she said with several tears already forming in her eyes. Issei sighed and let go of her, as she quickly moved away from him while rubbing her forearm. Ouch, this will leave a mark, she complained. Speak, why did you want to kill me? Issei asked, looking seriously at the girl. I'm sorry, okay? It was an impulse. Besides, I woke up in this place. I thought you had kidnapped me and wanted to grape me, she said, trying to excuse herself. Issei just looked at her with a poker face. Really? That was the best you could come up with. If you had wanted to, you wouldn't have realized it, and worse, if I were a rapist, I would have done it in that alley and then left you there bleeding to death, said Issei, staring at the girl who was surprised. Wow, how sincere, she said, surprised. She didn't expect that answer. I have many reasons to get you out on the street immediately. In fact, I will do it now, said Issei, standing up, but she opened her eyes and hurriedly launched herself at him. No, wait, don't do it. I'm sorry, really, it was an impulse. It won't happen again. Just don't kick me out. I haven't eaten for several weeks, and because of some idiots who wanted to hurt me, I ended up in bad shape, she said, looking pathetic, very pathetic, too pathetic. I don't know, look at the face Issei makes. Worse than sigh. Whatever, get out of the way, I'll give you something to eat, Issei said, getting the girl off of him and going to the small kitchen. He was either too good or too stupid, although he thought he was both. Thank you, really thank you. I've been eating leftovers for a long time, she said, making Issei sigh more. This April she took out the refrigerator, took out some cheese and ham, put the bread on, turned on the stove and started cooking. Note: yes, this will be Issei's apartment. like Kobayashi's. She was sitting at the table anxiously waiting for her meal. The chestnut finished cooking, and after putting the scrambled eggs with a little ham and serving an orange juice, with 2 slices of bread, he went and gave it to the girl. Here Issei said without much enthusiasm, after all, she almost killed him, or else she tried to kill him, because that knife would have broken or bounced off. Without saying anything, she attacked the food, eating with clear despair. Issei was surprised. What she said was true, so he went and prepared more. It's good to have large reserves of food since he eats too much. She ate enough for 5 people, little according to Issei but a lot for a normal human. Full, I'm full, what a good meal, said the girl, smiling satisfied while rubbing her belly. Issei just looked at her. It seemed like a good thing, as if he forgot that she wanted to stab him a little while ago. Thanks, I really needed this, she said with a smile. Issei sighed. Whatever, are you feeling better? Issei asked, since Phoenix tears didn't cure illnesses, only physical pain. Well, yes, I feel very good for how I was. Do you have a healing quirk? Asked the girl. I have my methods, Issei said, not wanting to say it was because of magical tears. She looked at him, but said nothing. Well, since you're okay, you could. Issei was going to tell her that he can go, but she knowingly launched herself at him, knocking several things off the table. It's a good thing she used the plastic dishes, the noise that would have been made. Wait, don't do that to me. I can clean, wash clothes and cook, yeah, don't throw me out on the street. It's horrible to be wandering around with nothing to eat, and I don't want to be beaten almost to death again, she said desperately. Because he may be crazy, but he's not stupid. Issei saw her. She didn't give him confidence. Well, she would never give him confidence. And why should I do that? Did you forget that you almost stabbed me a little while ago? Issei asked, pushing her away and standing up from the table. I swear I won't do it again. In fact, I could even let you use my body to pay for my stay. I've been told I have a very good body, she dinks, already standing and outlining her figure with her hands. Issei had to admit that she had a good figure. Kaneko would be upset to know that a girl her age had a better figure than her. First, no, I'm not one of those, so forget it. And second, Issei saw her, and she had a look like an abandoned dog. That made him sigh and look seriously at the girl. I hope I don't regret this. Look, I'll let you live here. But you mustn't let anyone know you're here. It could be a problem, he said. He would talk to Nisa later just in case. But for the moment, he will be busy. Yay, she smiled happily to now have a roof over her head. Issei looked at her and sighed again. Hiya, I hope I don't regret it later, thought the brown-haired boy. At that point his phone rang. It was a message. Issei looked at him. It was Rumi asking if he was going to arrive. Issei looked at the time. It was 5:30. She was already waiting for him at this time. The blonde looked at Issei in confusion. Okay, listen, I have to go out to train, so I hope you don't end up stealing anything from me, because if not I'll look for you and take you to the nearest police station, Issei said in a hurry, going to change. She didn't say anything and watched him go into his room. Then he came out wearing a workout suit. Remember what I said, I'll be back in a few hours. If you're still hungry, there's food in the kitchen. If you know how to cook, then you can prepare something there. I'll probably be back before lunch. Be careful, said Issei, leaving the apartment in a hurry. Wait, Issei had left. I don't even know his name, she said, pouting. Whatever. Go to sleep again, and she threw herself on the couch where Issei slept. Putting her face on the pillow where she put her head, and zzz, she began to sleep with a very relaxed face. Moments later. Until you showed up, I was going to leave, Rumi complained, looking annoyed at the brunette who had just arrived. Oh, sorry, I had some problems early and that's why I couldn't do my exercises. But okay, let's go, Issei said, but she stopped him. Where do you think you're going? I'm hungry, so since I've been waiting for you here, treat me to something to eat, said Rumi, pointing to the tent. Huh? No, it's not like he's your boyfriend, but I know you won't stop bothering me, so let's go, Issei said, starting to walk without seeing Rumi's shocked face. Ha, I wish I had a girlfriend like me, said Rumi. Yes, but no, you are very annoying and noisy, said Issei to dodge a blow she was going to give him. Besides being violent, rabbits are supposed to be cute. You are the opposite. Your appearance is cute but your personality is violent, he said, making fun of her. Idiot, don't talk like that about a beautiful girl like me, you won't have a girlfriend like that, said Rumi. Nah, I got it, Issei said, surprising Rumi. I don't believe you, said Rumi. Well, don't do it, said Issei, entering the store with her behind him. Come on. I got hungry too, he said, wanting to move the conversation away from their relationship, since having a harem is not normal in the human world unless you are from India or places where such type of relationship is allowed. Rumi understood that and let it be, since they didn't care much about that. So Issei bought something for Rumi and himself, walking to the park where they trained because they were just going to chat for a while. So, will you study at UA? Asked Rumi, because he never asked that. Well, yes, I will study there, that's why I trained, said Issei. I see, I studied there. If you want any advice you can ask me, said Rumi, smiling. I'll keep that in mind, Issei said. The conversation became casual. Now it was Rumi talking about her job, what it was like to go after villains every day and kick their asses, with Issei having to dodge several punches and a kick from Rumi when she called him a gorilla. Then they separated, because she had to go to her job as a hero and he had to go meet Izuku. He walked for a while and returned to the coexistence tent where he met with Rumi. There he saw Izuku looking everywhere, as if looking for someone. Good morning, Issei greeted. Oh, good morning, Izuku said to the brunette. I hope you're ready. I don't know what kind of training All Might gave you, but I won't be gentle, really, said Issei, seriously, making Izuku nervous anyway. Let's go. Director Niza said that Aizawa-san would take us to an area that he prepared, he said, and Izuku agreed. So they both started walking. Izuku wanted to talk to Issei, to meet him because he wanted to know how he ended up coming out of a portal, because ever since they told him he was from another world, he was itching like hives with curiosity. Come on, if you want to ask something you can do it, said Issei, looking at Izuku, who almost fell to the ground from the shock. Won't it be a bother? Izuku asked, not wanting to make Issei uncomfortable. Don't worry, said Issei. So as they walked, Izuku began to ask Issei many things, so many that the brown-haired boy could barely answer, although he did answer every question Izuku asked, since he asked things that could be answered and would not be uncomfortable. And that's why you shouldn't mix fire magic with wind magic without being an expert, because you could cause a very dangerous fire tornado, said Issei, while Izuku wrote down in a small notebook that he took out of the backpack he was carrying. Wow, that's impressive, much more than the heroes, said Izuku. Wow, and I think heroes are interesting, or at least that about quirks, said Issei. They had both arrived at the main entrance of the UA. Their Hyoudou was waiting for them with his brutally sleepy face. Good morning, both boys welcomed. Good morning, come on in, I'll take you to the place, Hyoudou said, yawning as he got into his car. Issei and Izuku entered, with Issei being the co-pilot and Izuku in the back. Aizawa started the vehicle and they headed towards the training place. And what is the place where we will train like? Izuku asked. You see, normally this wouldn't be possible for anyone, but due to Hyoudu's case, the director made an exception and got them to lend the place for his training, Aizawa began to explain to the boys. It sounds like a very special place, Issei said. And it is. Now, open the glove compartment, there are 2 IDs in there for you to use and give you permission to use the facility, said Aizawa. Issei opened the glove compartment, and took out 2 black cards with photos of both of them. So these are the photos for Issei, said, passing his to Izuku. After driving for a while, Aizawa stopped outside a specific location. Wow, Issei said, surprised. Welcome to the Unexpected Event Simulation Unit, or USJ for short, Hyoudou said, and then yawned. Izuku was amazed. I heard about this place. Here they train heroes to be prepared for unforeseen situations, said Izuku. I think the word unexpected in his name indicates it, Issei said, looking at Izuku. Well, let's go in, Hyoudou said, walking. The two followed the hero, who was greeted by a person in a strange outfit for Issei. It can't be, it's the 13th space heroine, Izuku shouted excitedly. Issei only saw the one now known as 13. No bucking Kuno fan, whoever puts or thinks of the pun, joke, or whatever they call it. Hey Kuros, these are the boys that Director Niza told you about, Hyoudou said to the woman. I see, hello guys, nice to meet you, I'm 13, But my name is Ainin Kuros. I will be the supervisor of your training. Director Nizu already told me about your situation and I will help with this, Ainin commented, looking at Issei at the end. That's good, this way we avoid the first impression, said Issei, because people might get scared seeing what he could do. Ainin took off his helmet, revealing a cute face in Issei's eyes. Okay, follow me, I'll show you around, Ainin said, and the boys agreed. You already know how to get there. I'm going back because I still have classes to teach, said Aizawa, going to his car. The boys and the woman said goodbye to the man and entered the place, although it was more impressive inside than outside. While they both said, making Ainin smile. Welcome to USJ, here you can train at ease, but be careful because all of this is made to be an exact replica of extremely dangerous situations that can appear unexpectedly, said Ainin, and the boys acknowledged. Issei saw the place and a specific area caught his attention. That would be good training. And so Izuku and Issei would begin their first day of training. Chapter 9. USJ. Okay guys, I'll explain each part of the USJ, Ainin commented to the kids who paid attention. Ainin began to explain the function of this site along with its locations. Collapse Zone, an area of ruined buildings with high instability. Earth Displacement Zone, an area that has displaced Earth with buildings buried in it. Fire Zone, an area that simulates an urban environment with high fire rates. Mountainous Area, a site that simulates a rocky area with ridge and cliffs. Storm Zone, simulates an urban area constantly hit by strong winds and storms. Flood Zone, this area simulates a maritime environment. It contains a boat and a large and dangerous slide. They are well equipped, Issei commented, looking at the facilities. Of course it didn't look like the game Izuku created. That thing was hyper-realistic with virtual enemies that can harm the player and all that. It even managed to replicate natural disasters at their peak. It was terrifying and Gasper never went back to play no matter how cool it looked. Of course, we have to train the potential heroes in various situations. It was Director Nizu himself who was in charge of designing this whole place, Ainin said, smiling. Wow, the director is not one of the most brilliant minds in the world for nothing, Izuku said, surprised. Well, now regarding your training, the director told me what Hyoudou is capable of, so tell me what area you will train in, Ainin said, looking at Issei. The mountainous area, Issei said, pointing at the area. I understand, you can go, but be careful and don't overexert yourself, you could get hurt, Ainin said seriously. Of course, we will keep this in mind. Now let's go, Izuku said, Issei walking to the place being followed by Izuku, but he stopped in front of the heroine and took out a notebook along with a pencil. Could you sign my notebook? Izuku asked. Of course, Ainin said, signing the boy's notebook, who thanked her and ran to catch up with Issei. Well, now the objective is the next, discover how All Might's power works, said Issei, but Izuku did not speak. Well, according to what he told me, when I'm going to use it I must prepare myself and shout from the depths of my being, smash, said Izuku. But what a crude explanation, said Issei with a poker face, but well, remembering how it attacks, it would be normal to think that this is how it works, but for the moment I will dictate the training that you will receive now, so take note, he said, and Izuku prepared himself with a notebook and a pen. Training starts at 4 a.m., running 10 kilometers carrying 40 kilo weights, increasing once you get used to it. Continuing with 100 push-ups, 100 squats and 10 sit-ups carrying 200 kilos. They will increase as time goes by. Ends at 6 a.m. with meditation to try to connect better with the quirk to see if it works. And on Saturdays and Sundays from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m., training at USJ, all of the above plus climbing and descending the mountainous area carrying 200 kilos. You see, from 4 to 5 I won't be able to accompany you since I usually train with someone at those hours, but I'll give you the weights to use and we'll meet at 5:30 in the park near our meeting point for the rest of the training, or call me if you finish early so I can accompany you and watch your training, Issei said, and Izuku agreed. Good. Now here, put this on, Issei said, passing him some special weights. Something like Rock Lee's but in black. Izuku took one and felt its weight, and there were 4. Put this on your arms and legs, each one weighs 50 kilos, in total it will be 200 kilos of weight. You will have to go up and down this mountain 20 times, then we will do the standard routine, Issei said seriously. Izuku swallowed hard. He knew this was going to be bucked up, and Issei's glare didn't help ease his nerves. 4 hours later. Well, rest, Issei said, watching Izuku lying face up on the ground while breathing heavily. They were in the central square, while Izuku was lying on a bench. Wow, that was some great training, Ainen commented, seeing Izuku's state. But it's effective, Issei said. So they will only be coming on weekends, said Ainen, looking at the brown-haired boy. Yes, it's because of classes. Going and coming without a means of transportation would be a problem, so that's why it's only on Saturdays and Sundays. Also, this way we don't bother using the facilities daily, said Issei, since it would be annoying to a certain extent to be coming to this place daily. I see. Well, I won't always be here, but when I am I will supervise your training just in case, she said, and Issei agreed. Well, with your permission, I'll take Izuku home, since I don't think he'll be able to move for a while, said Issei, carrying the boy like a sack. Do you want me to call a taxi? Ainen asked. Please, Issei said. So the heroine called a taxi, where Issei got in, and after asking Izuku for the address, they left. After a ride, the taxi arrived at the apartment complex where Izuku lived with his mother. The brown-haired boy went up the elevator, helping the green-haired boy who was still tired. If you start like this, imagine the rest, Issei said, and Izuku just shuddered. They arrived at the door corresponding to the Midoriya apartment. You can leave me here, thanks, I see, Izuku said with a small smile. Sure, no problem, Issei said, leaving the boy. The green-haired man took out his key and opened it. Issei only left because he had to make his food. Izuku entered his house. Izuku, welcome. Katsumi-chan came to see you, said Inko, Midoriya smiling, but was surprised to see Izuku's son. What happened to you? She shouted worriedly. Izuku, a girl shouted, coming out of her room. Kat-chan, hello, said Izuku, smiling at the girl who worriedly went to him. What's wrong? You're weak, commented Katsumi Bakugo, Izuku's girlfriend since the beginning of high school. Calm down, I'm fine, it's part of my training, said Izuku, smiling tiredly. I'm still surprised that you awakened your quirk late, Katsumi said, holding her boyfriend. Yes, but that's a good thing, although the doctor said that his body should be in better condition to withstand it, said Inko, remembering when she went to the doctor to verify the late awakening of Izuku's quirk if they knew that everything was orchestrated by Nizu and Tashinori. Whatever, leave it to me, I'll take care of him while he recovers, said Katsumi, taking Izuku to his room. But first, a joy. You stink, she said, smelling Izuku. Issei returned to his apartment, and was surprised at first to be greeted by the aroma of a meat stew and see the girl sitting on the couch watching TV. Oh, welcome, she greeted with a smile. I'm back, Issei said, confused. She got up from the chair and went straight to the kitchen. Look, I made beef stew for lunch, she said, smiling. Issei just looked at her and then sighed. Come, have a seat and I'll serve you the food, she said, and Issei listened. The chestnut sat down, and she put down a plate of rice and then put on the meat stew. I hope you enjoy it, she said with a smile. Issei thanked her and tied her in silence, while she watched expectantly as he tied her. It's good, Issei said, surprised, as he didn't think it would be good. She smiled upon hearing that. I'm glad you liked it. I haven't cooked something in a while, she said, smiling happily. Issei looked at her, smiling there calmly. It seemed like a good thing, but he will never forget how she tried to break his neck while he was sleeping. By the way, what's your name? Issei asked. Me? Well, my name is Toga Himiko. You can call me Himiko. And you? Himiko asked. Hyoudou Issei. You can call me Issei, said the brown-haired boy, and she smiled. Nice to meet you, Issei-kun, she said, smiling happily. Issei finished his meal and she quickly took the dirty dishes. Let me wash your plate, she said, going to wash the plate. Issei looked at her. She was very helpful, too much. You are a criminal, right? Issei asked, and that made her tense, agreeing with him. I see, and for what you were going to do to me, you are a murderer, he said seriously. She began to shake with nerves. Issei stood up, standing behind her, looking at her seriously, and she was just shaking. He saw how she was holding a kitchen knife tightly, but she was shaking a lot. Then I sigh. HAA, whatever, I know I shouldn't have you here, but I'm not the one to make laws, said Issei, because in the end, he has killed before, although not humans, he has killed, and killing is killing regardless of who he kills. She relaxed, but turned to look at him confused. At this point she would have already been turned in, or at least they would have tried to turn her over to the police. Why? Himiko asked. Why don't I stop you? Issei asked, and she agreed, because I don't feel like it, and I'm not a police officer or something like that to go around arresting people, he said. Although she was surprised by the answer, but yes, if you try to kill me again you will go pretty badly beaten up straight to prison, she said seriously. She agreed quickly, knowing that she shouldn't play with Issei. Well, by the way, since you're going to live here, Issei was going to tell her to help him with the housework, but she got ahead of him. I'll cook for you, wash your clothes and clean the house, Himiko said, offering herself, as she wants to be as useful as possible so as not to be kicked out of the apartment. Okay, Issei just looked at her strangely. Well, I'll go take a shower. But first I'll wash the dishes, he said, taking the dirty dishes, but Himiko took them from him. Go take a shower while I clean up, she said, going to the sink to wash the dishes. Issei just looked at her. He was confused but still alert, since she will never give him a good feeling even though he begged her to be in this place. Then he left her be while he went to take a shower, because he was very sweaty and stank a bit. Already in the shower, I locked it and got in. You are very cautious with that girl, said Drake. And I must, look, he wanted to kill me. Of course I wouldn't do it, but still the intention is what counts, and I don't hesitate to want to cut my neck, Issei told him. Well, you're right about that. What are you going to do with her? Asked Drake. For the moment I will notify Director Nizu of this, but I will tell him not to put her in jail or a correctional facility. I will simply keep her under surveillance with a wyvern either inside or outside the apartment, said Issei, because the girl was not crazy, she was just, well, a little crazy, but she could also be dealt with. Because in the end she wanted a place to stay for a while. Well, you'll know what you're doing, just don't regret it later, said Drake. There are few things I regret, said Issei, starting to bathe. While chatting with Drake, Himiko tried to sneak a peek at Issei, but he used Tokudabashi and got ahead of his actions. Damn, Himiko muttered with a pout, going back to cleaning the dishes. After a while Issei left and quickly went into the room to get dressed, although Himiko, spying from a corner, looked at Issei's upper part, blushing at the sight. She sure has a nice body, and those scars, thought the girl with a smile and a blush. While Issei in his room felt a strange chill. After a while Issei came out ready and went to sit on the couch, while Himiko was watching television. So, were you going to school? Issei asked. Yes, but I left her months ago, she replied, looking at him. I see, Issei said. And do you study? Himiko asked, thinking she was a high school student or something. Not at the moment, but I was studying, said Issei, since he wouldn't tell her that he is older than her and his appearance is only external. Really? So you spend all day outside doing nothing? Himiko asked. Well, I go out to train and that, or walk around. I don't do much, said Issei, because honestly he doesn't do anything productive but train. And your parents? Himiko asked. They are in another city. They are from Hokkaido, said Issei, because obviously his parents are in his world. So far away, and you don't miss them? Himiko asked. Always, but I know they're okay and that's all that matters, Issei said, smiling slightly. Himiko saw Issei somewhat dazed. She continues, remembering when she ran to his room after showering. And you? Your parents? Issei asked. Himiko stopped her daze and put on an apathetic face. I don't want to talk about them, Himiko said, sounding clearly hostile. Of course, that's a delicate subject, Issei said, understanding. After that she limited herself to watching TV, while Issei accompanied her in silence. Now she realizes that she has some kind of problem, although it does not justify her actions and current status as a criminal. It seems to be something that affected her a lot. You'll have to find out about it somehow, but for now you have to live with it. Chapter 10. Months later. Issei's apartment. I'm back, Issei said, entering his apartment. Welcome, Issei greeted Himiko, smiling from the armchair. Issei arrived and sat on the couch, being seen by Himiko. How did it go? She asked. Well, Izuku is giving his all to learn how to use his quirk, Issei said, relaxing on the couch. Oh, and why are you tired? Asked Himiko. Because I had to run after an idiot who stole an old lady's purse again, Issei said with a sigh. And why don't you just ignore it? I mean, in the end it doesn't affect you at all, said Himiko. I've told you 1,000 times, I can't ignore an assault when it happens in front of me, even when those heroes scold me, said Issei looking at her. I understand, she said. Their coexistence began with Issei being super cautious with her, but after the second week they started to get along. Of course, she doesn't tell him anything about her past. Because Issei feels that something happened for her to end the way it did, because in the end every villain has a story behind, and taking into account the type of society there is, and using Izuku as an example, it could be something related to her quirk, since she only told him that her quirk requires the blood of others to function, being that it takes the appearance of the owner of the blood. He wanted to try it with his blood, but he was afraid that his blood would cause him some harm, because in the end, his blood is that of a dragon, and well, if it made Hyoudou excited, he doesn't want to know what it can do to a human. Anyway, he told Nizu about her, and the mouse bear dog mole left her under his care, because he thought it would be interesting to see how far Issei would go to prevent the girl from committing a crime. And how are things going with your training? Himiko asked. Well, everything will be ready for the UA entrance exam, said Issei, as Izuku has managed to make great progress in handling his quirk. I see, Himiko said. Anyway, have you taken your pills? Issei asked. Yes, Himiko replied. At Nizu's request, Issei gave Himiko some pills that make her quirk not affect her as much and make her get a horrible bloodlust that drives her out of control, being that they were designed thanks to a blood sample that Issei gave them from her. Speaking of which, the UA entrance exams are coming up soon, Himiko said. Yes, in a few days there are exams, said Issei looking at a calendar hanging on the nearby wall with a day marked. You will pass, said Himiko, sure of what she was saying. Do you think? Issei said. Yes, you are someone strong and fast. They would be stupid not to accept you, said Himiko. Even if the principal let me in anyway, Issei thought, because even if he was going to take the entrance exam, Nizu probably wouldn't care about anything and would put him in the hero class. Well, I couldn't tell you. We'll have to wait until the big day, he said, smiling. At that, Himiko hugs him from the side while smiling. I know you will make it through, and if not, I will be here to comfort you, said Himiko, smiling sweetly. Issei saw her and couldn't help but smile, because this girl made her days fun. I know, and thanks for that, said the brown-haired boy, caressing his head, making the blonde smile more. Days later. Okay, I'm leaving, Issei said, ready to go to UA. Have a good trip and good luck, said Himiko, saying goodbye to the brunette. Issei left with a smile on his face and left the apartment. He left the building, seen by Himiko, who wished him the best of luck. Issei walked calmly, going with a steady pace to his destination. He went early to wait and see the applicants, since there might be interesting people there. When he passed by the convenience store near his apartment, he saw Rumi standing on the corner. Hello, Issei greeted. Hello, are you ready for your test? Asked the heroine. She was waiting for Issei here because she knew it was his special day. Yes, Issei answered. Nervous, Hyoudou? Rumi asked with some mockery. Not even a little bit, rabbit, said Issei. Here, for luck, said Rumi, passing him a can of soda that she bought from the vending machine. Oh, thanks. I've never been given one of these before. I'll treasure it well, said Issei, taking the can to take its contents, and then throw it in the recyclable trash. Wow, but how well kept, said Rumi. Right. They can even do more with that one, Issei said, smiling. Idiot, she said with a smile. I love you too, rabbit, said Issei. Anyway, I'll leave you. I came to wish you luck, but knowing you, I doubt you need it, said Rumi. Thank you, really, you took the trouble to come see me and everything. You're a great friend, Issei said, smiling. She smiled. Take care, the director's tests can be a little dangerous, said Rumi. It defines little dangerous, because from what I've seen of Director Nizu, is that despite being a genius, he is somewhat unhinged when he sets his mind to it, said Issei, because he recognized crazy people just by looking at them, and I knew that Nizu was somewhat crazy. Just be careful. I don't want to find out if something happened to you, she said, starting to walk away. See you later, she said as she walked away. Sure, see you, bunny, said Issei, walking by her side. Rumi stopped and looked at him, smiled and walked away, hoping everything would turn out well for him. Issei finally arrived in front of UA. He saw several students arriving accompanied by their parents, or alone. The chestnut was calm, sighed and entered. She was hoping to see Izuku, but knowing that he would be with his girlfriend, she left him, because although she has not met her in person, when she called the green-haired boy when they trained, she sounded like a very problematic girl. He went straight to the main auditorium, so that was where everyone would gather to begin the exam. After passing an inspection to determine if he was a candidate, he arrived at the auditorium. There were so many young people that he was too lazy to count. He guessed there were about 500. It was number 1234, a rare number due to its combination of consecutive numbers, but it was probably Nisa's doing. He sat down between a boy with a crow's head and an invisible girl who greeted him cheerfully. Although if there was someone who caught his attention, it was a girl with a peculiar hair color, since it was two-tone, red and white. She is beautiful, even with that red mark on her left eye. Although that serious and cold look was very harsh for a beauty, she will have her problems. Where could Izuku be? Issei thought, looking for his friend somewhere, but nothing, although he could recognize his green hair almost in front of him. At that point someone came up on stage to explain everything. It was the hero present, Mike, who explained everything about the practical tests that would be in previously designated locations. He was assigned to Block A. Okay, now, you'll take the exams in your places, and don't try to cheat since ectoplasm is watching, commented Present Mike. Issei saw the happy hero using his clones to be alert on each side, although there were also other heroes watching that no one copied. Issei took his test. It was multiple choice and there were about 15 pages of questions. The limit was 1 hour, so it started right away. The difficulty of the exam was obvious, because in addition to being a hero training institute, it was still a prestigious school and as such they had to have high standards for their new entrants. He had trouble with several questions, but thanks to Drake he solved 87% of the exam, because he would have only done 50% and it would have been pitiful for a guy who was about to graduate from high school. After that they were directed to the designated points. Issei stood with a group of 50 young people in front of some large doors. This was a small replica city that UA created as a learning facility for their hero course. All of the youth were divided into groups from A to G. The brown-haired boy saw that in his group was the girl with two-tone hair. Okay, get started, announced one of the people in charge of this side, being the hero Vlad King. There were few who reacted in time, with Issei and the two-colored-haired girl among that small group. Issei immediately moved between the streets of the replica city. The chestnut began to look for the happy robots, but they didn't take long to appear. Careful, I'm passing by, Issei shouted without stopping his run and launching himself at the two-point robot, giving it a powerful kick that ripped off one of its heads. This clearly surprised several of the applicants, but what came next surprised them more and caught the attention of the two-tone-haired girl. Heiken, and he threw a powerful punch ending with a three-pointer. Issei didn't even stop. He continued on his way destroying robots, because he thought that was all that was needed to pass. That boy is strong, one commented. Shit, at this rate we won't even be among those who qualify, a girl commented. Although the two-colored-haired girl looked at Issei seriously as he walked away, leaving a flaming mess behind him. Issei managed to accumulate 70 points in 5 minutes, with 5 minutes left until this ends. He saw how the other participants were doing their thing, and he had to help more than one who was in trouble, although of course, not all of them were grateful because they wanted those points for themselves, but he helped them because if not they could get hurt. Now I was at an intersection, looking at the pile of destroyed robots and several kids running around looking for more. At least they're not a Mecha Fafnir or that Malkazer, said Drake, reminding Issei about the robots Azazel created. Plus the last one literally had infinite energy since it was fed on sin, and since living being sin, its energy was unlimited and it was difficult to turn it off, because it was stronger than a Dragon King. Whatever, I'd better go see who needs help, said Issei, thinking about getting away from there. Just as he was about to cross the street, a blast of ice nearly hit him. Looking in the direction from which the attack came, he saw a large ice path that had destroyed several robots. Although the cause was the girl with two-tone hair who had that serious look on her face. Issei looked at her and she at him. He was about to greet her when she simply turned around and walked away from there. "She's pretty but very unfriendly," Issei commented. He was about to leave when he felt a strong jolt, which was accompanied by another, and then another. "What the hell is going on?" he asked himself, as another jolt shook the place. He was intrigued, so under the gaze of some of the boys present, he took out a pair of red wings from his back and flew to the top of one of the buildings. "Does it have wings?" one asked in surprise. "Dragon wings?" said another. "Is it like the heroine Ryukyu?" asked a girl in amazement. Although they were not the only ones. UA, monitoring room. In the monitoring room were gathered several of the heroes who would pretend to be teachers and Director Nizu. Everyone was watching the performance of the new students. Tashinori was happy as he saw the results of Issei Hickson's training with his chosen one, as he had so far obtained 56 points. "There are some good prospects this year," commented a beautiful woman with black hair and a white suit that was very tight to her figure. Namuri Kayama, the heroine Midnight. "Yes, there are many promising boys," commented a man with a very peculiar appearance, since he was rectangular and gray. Ken Ishiyama, the hero Cementos. "Although that boy over there is too interesting, if the director didn't tell us I would think he was Endeavor's son," commented a burly man with white hair next to a red and white suit. Sekijiro-kan, the hero Vlad King. "True, his fire quirk is similar to Endeavor's, in addition to being physically very strong and fast," commented to a man in a black suit and trench coat. The hero Ectoplasm. "I didn't find your name, F." "Yes, everything is fine, but that's not all proof yet," Nisa commented, smiling. All those present saw it, and knew what he was referring to. "It's time to release the 0 points," said Nisa, getting down from his chair to go and touch a red button that was nearby. Tashinori hoped that his successor would do well. When Nisa touched the button, an alarm sounded and something emerged from the middle of the city. "Do you think this will turn out well?" Midnight asked, worried about the young people's well-being. "Yes, everything is fine. After all, I already have everything coldly calculated," Nisa commented, smiling. "Well, if you say so," Midnight said. They immediately saw how several began to flee, but seeing the camera that reflected Issei, they were surprised to see how he took out 2 wings from his back to climb a nearby building. "Dragon wings?" said Cementos. "In addition to fire, do you have a quirk like Ryukyu?" Midnight asked, surprised. Tashinori and Nisa saw each other. "That boy along with Endeavor's daughter show good aptitudes to be in the hero course. Look, the boy accumulated 40 rescue points," commented Ectoplasm, seeing Issei's points. "Now we'll see how he handles the 0 points," Nisa commented, smiling. Little did they know what a surprise they were in for. Issei was on the tallest building he found near his position, seeing what was causing those shakes, and he was surprised. "No way, a giant robot," said the brown-haired boy, seeing the enormous green machinery with a 0 painted on it. The brown-haired boy watched as he began to destroy the buildings, dropping rubble onto the ground. At least the participants were moving away from the place, but Issei saw that Izuku was nearby. The brown-haired boy went down to where his green-haired friend was. "Issei," Izuku said. "What's up, old man? What a monster, huh?" said Issei, referring to the robot. "Yes, we have to do something or it will destroy everything in its path," said Izuku, watching as the 0 points was making its way through the streets. "Well, do you feel ready?" Issei asked, looking at the boy. Izuku thought, and with a determined look he agreed. "Well, let's show that piece of junk the strength of the future #1 hero," Issei said, smiling. Izuku nodded again and focused. "One for all, full call 30%," Izuku shouted as his body became covered in reddish marks and a green aura covered him. Issei discovered this with Izuku when they went shopping at the convenience store, where they put a cupcake in the microwave and the brown-haired boy thought about distributing the OFA throughout the boy's body, and he applied it, giving birth to the full cowl. "Okay, My turn, Issei said, smiling as he began to release reddish energy. Little by little he began to change. He grew 2 wings, but that was not all. The skin on his arms and part of his face became red scales while an aura of fire covered him. Dragon Force, Issei shouted, revealing his new state of partial dragonification. This left everyone stunned, 2 boys who demonstrated great power, although Issei's was more showy and crazy. Let's go, Izuku, said Issei, giving such a strong push that it caused a small explosion of wind. Forks, Izuku shouted, jumping several meters into the air. Issei went for the robot's feet, which, seeing itself threatened, attacked, and before Issei hit the robot, he saw that a huge piece of rubble had come loose from the building and was about to fall on a brown-haired girl who was stuck. He stopped using his wings, then took a run and went for the girl. For people going at full speed, everything seems to go slower, and for Issei that moment was slow. The rubble was falling and the girl was desperate, so he took the girl in his arms after freeing her from the rubble and pointing her mouth up. The debris was reduced to small pieces. And Izuku. Smash, he shouted, throwing a powerful punch at the robot's head, destroying it. All this being seen by everyone who was stunned by such an act by the green-haired boy. Are you okay? Issei asked the girl, who looked at her closely, was cute. Yeah, thanks, she said, embarrassed by how Issei carried her like a princess. That's good, Issei said, putting her on the ground. Well, see you later, he said to run to Izuku. The girl watched Issei leave, grateful for what happened. Monitoring room. That's it, said Samantha, surprised. Amazing, Midnight said, surprised and excited. Those 2 boys definitely possess impressive qualities, commented Ectoplasm. Although the green-haired boy reminded me of Tashinori, said Present Mike, looking at the emaciated blonde who coughed. Although that boy seems to have a quirk like Ryuko's, his quirk, in addition to giving him a more humanoid appearance, allows him to control fire along with superior physical abilities. He is definitely someone who will attract a lot of attention, Vlad King commented. Well, I think it's time to finish the exam, Niza said as he pressed a button, and then alarms would sound throughout the city he replicates. The exam is over. After. And how do you think it went? Issei asked Izuku. Both of them were walking together. Well, although I think defeating the 0 points was useless, Izuku commented while holding his arm. Is it still numb? Issei asked. Yes, it hurts a little, but thanks to Recovery Girl it doesn't hurt that much, said Izuku, because although he controls the full cowl, it still gives him small pains after using it for a while. Well, you'll see that once you master the quirk you have, those pains will take a back seat, said Issei, patting him on the back. I hope so, Izuku said with a sigh. Izuku and a girl shouted as the 2 boys stopped. Issei saw a girl with short blonde hair and red eyes approaching them, but she looked at Izuku and saw that Izuku smiled when he saw her. Kat-chan, Izuku said, smiling. Issei understood immediately. Is she your girlfriend? Issei asked. Yes, he Izuku said, blushing. The girl walked over and saw Issei, and the brown-haired boy saw her too. That's right, Kat-chan, this is Hyoudou Issei. I've been training with him these months, said Izuku, introducing the brown-haired boy. I see. Hello, I'm Katsumi Bakugo. It's good to know that Izuku has good friends, said the blonde now known as Katsumi. Yes, anyway, you saw how he talks about you whenever he can. If I don't stop him, he even starts talking about the future we would create together, said Issei. And well, they both blushed. Well, I'll leave you. I have things to do. See you later, said the brown-haired boy, leaving to drop off the couple. Sure, see you, and let's hope we pass the exam, Izuku said, smiling. Of course, and it was a pleasure, Bakugo-san, said Issei. Likewise, Hyoudou, said the blonde. And so the brown-haired boy left, and as he left, several of the applicants saw him. Some thanked him again for his help, and others praised his appearance when he used Dragon Force. Another day ends and little time for a new school life to begin for Issei. Chapter 11. 1 week later. Issei's apartment. It's been a week since Issei took the UA entrance exam. During that time, he stopped training with Izuku because the latter thought about taking a break due to everything that happened. So he decided to spend time at home with Himiko, who because of that has been too clingy with him, and that has been going on for months now. Clearly she feels a strange attraction to him, he knew it, possibly driven by his gift or by his own taste, he doesn't know, but that's why he doesn't let his guard down, because he's still cautious with her. Anyway, now he was sitting next to Himiko watching a series, while she was lying on him and Issei let her be. Ding dong. Huh? Did you order something? Himiko asked. No, but it could be the letter from Yue with the exam results, said Issei, moving Himiko, who pouted. Issei went to see, and indeed it was a postman. He gave him a small box and asked for a stamp, then he left to continue with his work. Issei walked in and opened the box. Himiko was expectant at what was inside. Issei took out a device and a letter with some more papers, as well as an ID. I have placed the device on the table inside in front of the chair where they usually sat and pressed a button on the side. Immediately a hologram of Niza himself appeared, smiling. Congratulations, young Hyoudou, you have been accepted after showing skills worthy of a hero. Although the written exam was not outstanding, in the practical you surpassed all the applicants with a maximum grade. The hologram of Niza spoke, and then points that he won in the practical test appeared. They were 90 normal points and 89 rescue points. Something that surprised him, as you will see. There were not only points after defeating the robots, there were also rescue points, which you got by helping each applicant when they had problems, even when they did not appreciate it. And let me tell you, that is what a hero does. Help without looking at who does it, and without receiving anything in return, said the mouse, bear, guinea pig, hamster. So welcome to Yue. This is your hero academy, and with that I end the message. Wow, I see, you're great, said Himiko, hugging the brunette from behind. It would be great if I didn't know I was going to come anyway, thought the brown-haired boy. This is worth celebrating. Come on, I see, have a banquet, Himiko said, pressing her cheek against Issei's. Sure, I'll go buy the ingredients, Issei said, smiling. Hey, Himiko was happy, and Issei smiled at that. DxD Universe. It's been 10 days since Issei's disappearance, and everything is still out of control with the Alliance, as they fervently search for the brown-haired boy who is an important companion, friend, and family figure. Things have been a little gloomy at the Hyoudou residence. All of Issei's girlfriends were sad since his disappearance. Ingvild has tried to help, but honestly she doesn't know how, because she just woke up from a long sleep of about 100 years, and now she has to make sure that her friends aren't sad even though she is too. Issei's parents have known how to handle their concerns, as they trust that their son is fine, but that does not take away the fact that Miki cries at night worried about her son's well-being. In Issei in the girls' room, a redhead and a black-haired girl were lying on the bed under the sheets. Rias Gremry and Akino Himejima, two of the three girls most affected by that. There was also Asia Argento, but she had been taken by Irina and Zenobia to distract herself, although they weren't doing well either. Rias, although she has been sad, has had to continue doing her work as she normally does, because she promised Issei to remain strong in the face of any adversity, and even more so if something happens to him. Likewise Akino, because Issei knew that she was like Grafia, she was dependent on him, and he knew that this would affect her in a very negative way. That's why he spoke to her and told her the same thing he told Rias. She listened despite the pain in her heart due to worry. Of course, it was only when they finished all their work that they locked themselves in their room to let out their sadness. Something very gloomy. I see, I hope you're okay, Rias thought, depressed. Anata, please come back safely, Akino thought with tearful eyes. In the Underworld, in a building that serves as a laboratory, several individuals were gathered. Ajuka Beelzebub, Sahariel, and two special people from Asgard, the Ebony Sindri and Brock, two dwarves in charge of Asgard's technology. There were also gods like Heimdall who knew about dimensional travel, Shiva who was an expert in matters of travel to other plans, and the god Dagda, leader of the Celts. Well, then the plan is to create a portal that serves as a bridge between two worlds in order to find the whereabouts of the young Sekiryuutei, said Shiva in his child form, sitting in a chair. Indeed, thanks to the fact that we have already recorded his energy after performing the ritual to obtain his evil pieces. So when the spell that Hades used is deciphered, we can begin with the creation of the machine that will take us to where he is, said Ajuka, showing a series of calculations and images of what the machine would look like in a hologram. So our help here is through our knowledge of traveling between worlds, Hyoudou said. Yes, they are the only ones accessible to ask for such help, because someone else would be great red and it is obvious that he would not be interested in such an invention, said Sekiryuutei. Well, considering that the boy is very important to the Underworld and the Alliance in general, as well as being the only solution against the future attack that Azazel told us about, we must help in any way we can, even though magical science is not our strong suit, Dagda commented calmly. Well, you have my full support in this. That boy has done too much for the Alliance to be forgotten, commented Hyoudou. Yes, and it turned out to be more important than we thought, said Shiva. Well, then let's get started with this. I want to see if these plans work the way Azazel wants, Brock commented, excited to start the work. I just hope everything goes well, Sindri commented. And so the group began with the creation of the portal that would bring Issei back. 2 weeks later. See you later. Have a good first day, said Himiko, wearing nothing but an oversized Issei t-shirt and her hair down. I'm leaving and taking care of the house, and no, just knock them out this time, said Issei, considering that last time some thieves tried to break in, and she almost killed them. I already told you I won't kill them, he said, pouting. You better have no ice cream for a year, said Issei as she opened her eyes suddenly. Yes, Yai, I'll listen, don't worry, she said, because she didn't want to be left without ice cream. Well then, see you later, Issei said, leaving his apartment. Himiko stood at the entrance for a while until she went to lie down on Issei's bed, getting under the sheets and breathing in his scent. Issei walked calmly through the streets heading to Yue. He arrived at the main street of that area of the city and called a taxi, heading calmly towards the academy while watching people go about their routine activities. Finally he arrived and saw the place, the Yue Academy, #1 in teaching to make heroes and where All Might will be teaching. Well, it's time to go back to school, what a bummer, he thought, putting on a bored face. On the way inside, being watched by the students who were talking about the new arrivals. Issei ignored everything and simply entered the building to look for his classroom, Class 1A of the Hero Department. He looked at a map on a wall and went straight to the place without paying attention to anyone. Although if something was notable, it was seeing a boy with a face that reminded him of a character he saw on television in his world, although it was like a blowjob version of it. Issei stood before the door of the hall. What a big door, I whispered, looking at the door. He was feeling a little nervous, but not that much. After all, they were first years and he was supposed to be in the middle of his 3rd year. Finally I opened the door and saw the students already inside. Obviously, he caught everyone's attention, because at the end of his grade he was the first of all the first-year students. I see. Good morning, Izuku greeted from his seat. Oh, Izuku, you're here. Hello, Issei welcomed. The brown-haired boy saw that Izuku's girlfriend was standing next to a redhead who smiled at him when she saw him. Hello, Yeri, Kirishima welcomed the brown-haired boy. Oh, you're here too. Hello, Issei greeted, smiling, and looked at Izuku's girlfriend. Hello, he said, and she just nodded. The brown-haired boy didn't waste any time and looked at a piece of paper that was next to the blackboard, looked at where he would sit and went there. He walked past Izuku and went straight to the back of the room. He took a seat and looked to his left, staring at the two-tone-haired girl from the exam. She glanced at him but continued with her work, reading a small book. How cold, Issei thought, giving up on wanting to greet, and looked to his right. There was a girl with long black hair tied in a ponytail, next to a body that he thought was too much for a girl her age. Issei wanted to say hello but decided not to too much. She looked like someone serious, and he didn't want to bother her. I sigh and look ahead, waiting for classes to start. But someone came to talk to him. Hello, long time no see, huh? Yuri greeted again, standing in front of Issei. Oh yeah, long time I don't see. How have you been? Issei asked. Well, I'm training my quirk for the exam and look, I'm here, said the redhead, smiling. Yes, I didn't see you on the day of the exam, although it must have been because we were in different groups, said Issei. Yes, I was in Group D, but I still knew what you did. No, everyone who was there that day found out what you did, and let me tell you, it's the coolest thing I've ever heard, said Yeri with stars in his eyes. About the 0 points? Well, not only did I help stop him, Izuku also did his thing, said Issei, not giving it any importance. But it was still surprising. Besides, I heard that you turned into a dragon like the heroine's Ryukyu. Is that true? Yuri asked. The two girls on either side of Issei paid attention to that. Well, something like that, although my thing is more about turning parts of my body into scales and growing dragon wings, although I also acquire greater firepower. I call it Dragon Force, Issei explained since she understood. You have a great name, Yuri said, smiling. And what does your quirk do? Issei asked, interested. I can harden any part of my body. It serves as defense and attack. Something like that, she said, starting to harden her index finger. Wow, can I touch it? Issei asked. Go ahead, said Yuri, bringing his finger closer. Issei touched the finger, and it was indeed hard. It felt very solid, like rock or something. Wow, imagine hitting someone with your hardened fist. Practically a punch from you using your quirk could open a hole in a concrete wall, said Issei. Hee, I'm training my quirk to make it tougher and more resistant. The tougher the stronger I'll be, said Yuri, smiling. Well, if you do that you can be sure that you will be a very strong heroine, said Issei. Yuri smiled at that. Little by little the other students arrived. Issei saw a small boy with purple balls for hair, a boy with a crow's head, a girl with pink skin and hair that Yuri went to talk to, and so on. At the end the class was full and the bell ranged. At that the door was opened, and something fell. It was a yellow bag that crawled like a worm until it was behind the desk of the place. It stood up, revealing Aizawa with his usual face. Everyone thought it was strange, as it was a very peculiar entrance. I am the teacher in charge of this classroom, Shura Aizawa. It is a pleasure, Aizawa introduced himself, looking at everyone with a face that seemed like he wanted to sleep. No one could believe that he was a master, well, everyone except Issei and Izuku. Well, now let's start this hell, Issei thought, bored. Okay, now put this on and let's go to the P field. We're going to have a test to understand your quirks, Aizawa said while holding an Academy P uniform. And so begins the first day of school for Issei. Chapter 12. Moments later. The brown-haired boy was in the locker room with the others. Each one put on their suit. Izuku's being curious since it made him look like a rabbit, but he said it was something his mother made him, and that made him smile. The brown-haired boy looked at his briefcase. It was number 21. He opened it and smiled at what he saw. He wanted to have a suit like the one he used in the Azazel Cup. In fact, he had a photograph of him wearing it, and based on that they created one. The only thing he asked them was that they make it resistant to fire, low temperatures, resistant to cuts, and so on. When he started to change, all the boys looked at him in surprise. Wow, my friend, what an elegant suit, Kaminari commented, seeing the brunette already dressed in his suit. It does have the touch, indeed, Mineta commented, nodding. Isn't that too formal for a hero costume? Asked a boy with short blonde hair and a long ponytail, this being Mashireo Ojiro. I think red suits you well, commented a smiling black-haired man, Hanta Siro. Indeed, it's as if red and he were one, commented the crowd boy, Fumikage Tokoemi. Were you inspired by any hero or something? Asked a tall, strong boy with brown hair, Rikido Sato. No, inspiration simply came to me out of nowhere, and since I like red, I told myself that it would be better if it were a red suit, said Issei, lying, since the suit was the work of his in-laws. But it could be very striking at night, Tokoemi commented. Well, yes, but hey, at least the blood won't be seen, said Issei as everyone looked at him in surprise. Blood? Izuku asked nervously. Yes, my blood hurts me, said the brown-haired boy, even though everyone thought and were right. In the end, heroes also bleed like any other person. After that they left the locker room. This is exciting, Kaminari commented, smiling. I hope it's not something crazy, Mineta said. Well, keep waiting, ha ha ha, said Issei, causing Mineta to get upset. Shut up, or they'll make us do dangerous things later, Mineta said, remembering the last training sessions he had with Aizawa. Calm down, everything will be fine, Issei said, relaxed. Do you think he's okay? Izuku asked, whispering in his ear. Not even a little bit, Issei said, whispering back. They ran into the girls, most of whom had their outfits on. Nice outfits, Ochako commented, smiling. The same can be said, Issei said, looking at everyone, but he stopped at one of them, staring at her. What's wrong, Hyoudou-kun? Asked the invisible girl in class, Toru Hagakure, who could only be seen wearing her white gloves and shoes. Issei closed his eyes and after inhaling deeply he let out a long sigh. Nothing, he said, confusing everyone. Could she be naked? He thought, looking at the invisible girl out of the corner of his eye. Because she was invisible and he better forget it, because if he did, he would never find answers until he asked her, and you can't ask that. Everyone looked at him in confusion. Anyway, we better go now, we shouldn't keep the sensei waiting, said Ida, and everyone agreed. So each one walked outside, where there, wearing his hero costume, was the smiling All Might waiting for them. Okay, boys, let's see what you're made of, it's time for battle rehearsal, said Tashinori, smiling. Everyone was excited, well, some more than others. I like your young styles, praised the blonde who, when he saw Izuku's suit, coughed at the clear homage in the ears of the boy's suit. Sensei, regarding the scenario in question, could it be the city simulation we used in the entrance exam? Ida asked, raising his hand. Indeed, Tenya Shonen, it will be indoors, said Tashinori. Indoors? Was Jiro's confused question. And so All Might explained that villains do not always act outside, because there are villains who attack in closed places like buildings, and so, being that he would divide the class between villains and heroes, the latter surprised everyone, because they did not expect that to be the test of the day. What about the Kero training? Tsuyu asked, tilting her head. This is training, only there won't be a robot here that they can destroy, said Tashinori, smiling as always. Well, isn't it interesting? Issei commented. How so? Denki asked. That's simple. This training is to see how capable we would be in stopping villains in a narrow environment that will not please everyone due to their quirks, said Issei, because even he has happened to end up destroying the structures where the renegade demons are locked up. Exactly, Hyoudou Shonen, said Tashinori, giving him a thumbs up. You have a brain for a pervert, Jiro commented. Hey, that's offensive, said Issei, pretending to be offended. But he's right? Denki said, smiling, amused. Yes, you're right, ha ha ha, said Issei, laughing, since there's no point in complaining anymore. Alright, pay attention, said Tashinori, drawing everyone's attention. Since I explained about the test, which consists of dividing them into pairs of heroes and villains, the villains will be guarding a nuclear weapon, a fake one, and the duty of the team of heroes is to capture the villains and take the bomb, being clear with a time limit. Since if the heroes fail to stop the villains, this ends in a failure for them and a victory for the villains. Now we will choose the teams by lottery, said Tashinori, holding a box with a hole in the top. Are we really going to do it like this? Ida asked in surprise. Well, you have to keep in mind that heroes don't always team up with acquaintances. There are times where they have to team up with complete strangers, said Izuku. Yes, what the rabbit, said Issei, said, nodding. Well, if you put it that way, it makes sense, Ida said. Anyway, let's get started right away, so come and draw a piece of paper, said Tashinori, and all the students agreed. One by one they took a roll, the last one being Issei, who as expected was the odd one out. In the end the teams were formed, from A to J, but in the end Issei was left alone. Sensei, doesn't Issei-kun have a team? Ochako asked, raising her hand. Oh, don't worry, Uraraka Shoujo, Hyoudou Shonen will join one of the teams, Tashinori said. But wouldn't that be disadvantageous? Ashido asked. Yes, it would certainly be unfair no matter which side you put it on, Momo said calmly. And why not me against some team? Issei asked. That made everyone see it. I don't mean to offend you, but that's very arrogant of you, Kero, Tsuyu said. Yes, it's like you treat us less, Jiro commented, frowning. Come on, I know you were the best in the entrance exam, but you don't have to let it go to your head, Sero said calmly. Everyone began to give their opinion on that. Well, almost everyone, because Izuku looked at Issei in astonishment for such an idea. Hey, idiot, don't think it's such a big deal, Katsumi shouted angrily, looking at Issei scathingly. Izuku, you should put a muzzle on your girlfriend, said Issei, looking at his green-haired friend who was laughing nervously, and of course, the blonde was upset by that. Well, young people, please calm down, and Hyoudou Shonen, I can't let you do that. It's not that I doubt your abilities, But you have to have a team for this test, said Tashinori with his eternal smile, but he looked serious. I understand, Sensei, but it would still be unfair for whoever we have, since it will be 3 against 2, said Issei. I understand your point, but this could serve as proof that there will be times where you will be outnumbered even if you think you are enough, Tashinori said, raising a finger. Well, it doesn't sound so crazy if you put it that way, Ida commented. True, in the end being a hero also means being at a disadvantage against numbers, said Izuku. Well, now let's see which group he can stay with, said Tashinori, but first we'll see which duo is a hero and which is a villain, he said, smiling. And so he began to draw the corresponding letters to determine who was the hero and who was the villain, and they all ended up having their respective fight. Then Tashinori began to see which duo would need help, and in the end he looked at which duo that was. Okay, Hyoudou Shonen, you'll be in group I, said the blonde, pointing at Ojiro and Hagakure, who were going against couple B, which were the 2 colored girl and the boy Shoji Mezu. Oh, then Hyoudou-kun will be with us, Toru commented. We're counting on you, Ojiro said to the brown-haired boy. Of course, Issei said, smiling. The brown-haired boy saw his opponents. The bicolor one he knew was called Todoroki Shina, daughter of the number 2 hero Endeavor, or Todoroki Enji, known for his terrible attitude despite being a good hero like all might present. Shina looked at him with that neutral face, although when she saw him she became serious since she knew that Issei would be the only problem on that team. Alright, we'll start with the battle simulation, Team A and D, to the building to start with this, said Tashinori, as Team A consisting of Izuku and Ochako, and Team B being Tenya and Katsumi, walked to the building where the tests would be. How do you think they'll do? Asked Denki next to the brown-haired boy. I only know that Izuku is strong, but I don't know how strong his girlfriend is. But I hope she is strong, although according to Izuku she is, said Issei, remembering little talks he had with the green-haired man in the green rabbit suit. He's going to have a tough time fighting his girlfriend, Mina said near them. I don't think so, Issei said. Why do you say that? Jiro asked. Because if there's one thing Izuku stressed, it's that his girlfriend is too competitive, and she doesn't care if it's her boyfriend she's up against. She'll give it all until she wins, Issei said, surprising the boys. I think Midoriya is a masochist, Mineta commented. I think the same too, my grape-headed friend, said Issei, because although Izuku was a more or less calm boy, it seems that the one who runs the stores in the relationship is his girlfriend. In the end, with everything ready, the team of heroes A had to defeat the team of villains D, and as soon as Tashinori started, the blonde ran off in search of Izuku. The battle was tough, since Izuku had to face his girlfriend, something that would have been more complicated if it weren't for the wide control and tight spaces that Izuku had when moving with his full cowl. Something that he practiced together with Issei, since he knew that there would be times like this where he would have to fight in tight places and would not depend on destroying the environment in case it affects more people. Of course, for Katsumi it was not a problem to destroy the walls when she saw how her boyfriend moved from one side to the other, hitting her with air waves. But more than getting angry, she got more excited, although more would be the most correct thing to do, although Izuku did too. I think I'm a bad influence on Izuku, Issei thought when he saw the excited smile the boy had when fighting with his girlfriend. Those two are crazy, they're going to knock down the building if they continue like this, Siro commented, watching as the building trembled, while poor Ochako, who was climbing up, fell from time to time due to the strong jolts, and Tenya held the bomb, so that it wouldn't fail. Issei looked at Tashinori and saw him smile, but he always did it that way, although now it was a tense smile, and he had sweat running down his forehead. In the end it all ended with Izuku knocking out his girlfriend by hitting her in the back of the neck and gently leaving her leaning against the wall, of course catching her first, to run at high speed to the top floor where the bomb was. When he arrived he saw that Tenya had subdued Uraraka and was about to run to Izuku, but the green-haired boy was already expecting that, so taking advantage of Tenya's small mistake of only being able to move in a straight line towards his target, he stepped aside and stuck his foot in, causing him to crash into the door. Oh, that had to hurt, Mineta said, winning. That will leave a mark tomorrow, said Issei. The hero team wins, Tashinori shouted when Izuku touched the bomb. That was honestly mind-blowing and dangerous, Siro said. They are definitely a powerful couple, Mina commented. They're both powerful, Midoriya looked so manly there and Bakugo looked so cool facing him, said a very excited Yuri watching the screen where everything was being transmitted. Although they got carried away a lot, said Momo Yaoyorozu, seeing how the building was left. Although she does fit the role of villain, said Sato. He really got into his role, yes, said Ojiro. Anyway, now it's our turn, so it's better to get into the role of villain, said Issei as Ojiro nodded while Tori gave a thumbs up. Okay, teams B and I head to the other building. The other one is in bad shape, said Tashinori, pointing to a building identical to the first one, but about 3 buildings away. Alright team, let's go, Issei said as the two followed him. Good luck, Hyoudou-kun, said Yuri, making the brunette smile. Stop getting your ass kicked, Mineta said. Good luck, friend, said Denki. Issei smiled at the group and gave them a thumbs up. They really think highly of you, Ojiro said. We're counting on you, Hyoudou-kun, said Hagakure, although Issei couldn't tell if she was smiling. But he imagined she was, although it still made him uncomfortable to know that she was literally naked next to him. The 3 of them arrived at the place. Looking at the duo, the gaze of Issei and the 2 colored hair collided. She looked at him seriously and he just smiled at her to go with his team to the top floor. The 3 arrived after getting on an elevator that stopped working once they were up, and they saw the interior of the room, where a huge fake bomb made of metal and with the typical radioactivity logo was in the middle. Well, you have to keep in mind that girl has high-caliber ice powers, so she will definitely freeze the whole place. So first, Ojiro, you and Hagakure stay here taking care of the bomb. I will go straight ahead and don't worry, we will win, said Issei, smiling. Do you really think you can do it alone? Hagakure uncertainly asked. Yes, I've been in situations where the numbers are against me before, so trust me, we will win this test, said the brunette, heading for the exit. The 2 stood there not knowing what to do. Is it okay for him to do everything alone? Hagakure asked Ojiro. To be honest, I think we would be a burden on him. After all, he was the one who got the highest score on the entrance exam, said Ojiro, sighing. Hagakure didn't say anything. I'm getting nervous, so I'm going to take off my shoes and gloves, said Hagakure, removing said clothes, now being totally naked. Ojiro didn't know what to think, because that was something uncomfortable for him, because literally, the invisible girl was naked. Only because of her condition of invisibility nothing could be seen. The girl was quite an exhibitionist. Will they be okay? Ochako asked Izuku. I don't know. As far as I heard, Todoroki-san, despite being recommended, took the exam anyway and came second, plus his quirk seems to generate ice in large quantities. So Issei may have a hard time, said Izuku as he took the trouble to investigate Shina for future reference in case they face each other in a practice. Alright, it's time to start. Hero team, villain team, start now, said Tashinori, starting the test. Issei was going down the stairs, but he got bored and taking advantage of the space between them, he let himself fall down the center. I hear someone falling down the stairs to the east and falling from the 7th floor, Shoji said, surprised. Shina didn't say anything, and with her right half covered in ice giving her a more villainous than heroic appearance, she began to walk in that direction, and the octopus-looking boy felt the temperature drop suddenly. Go outside, I'm going to finish this quickly, said Shina, which Shoji had to do because of the unbearable cold. That guy is crazy, Kyuka said, surprised by what Issei did, as he jumped from the 7th floor to the ground floor. It is certainly reckless, something that will end up being counterproductive in the future, Momo commented seriously. Does he usually do those things? Denki asked, looking at Izuku, who was Issei's friend. Well, he usually drops from 100 meters, Izuku said, surprising everyone. Is he crazy? Mineta shouted in surprise. He looks like a suicidal madman, Kyuka said. Without a doubt, the male said, Yuri, smiling. Bam. Well, now, Issei, who had just touched the ground, leaving a small crater, felt the cold and watched as the walls were covered by a thick layer of ice. We have Sub-Zero in the house, he said, watching Shina approaching the hallway with a terrifying air surrounding her. If you want to face me, go ahead, but I don't recommend it, Shina said coldly. You know, I'm supposed to be a villain now, and do you know what villains are like? Issei asked when suddenly a powerful heat wave melted the girl's ice, who began to suffocate due to the high temperature that melted half of the ice that covered her and began to boil the water that was once ice. They can be deadly, he said, literally on fire. Sheena became serious and began to release more ice, taking advantage of the fact that Issei's heat would be good for her. And so the two collided attacks. Ice versus fire, causing a powerful explosion that created a huge, pressurized curtain of steam. Wow, they are powerful, Mineta shouted in surprise. They are on another level, said Tokoemi, surprised. It's obvious that they were the best in the exams, Mina commented, surprised. Although they are starting to cause damage like in the first fight, commented Zero, seeing that from afar the curtain of steam came out of the building from several places. Sheena frowned, the steam blinded her, and it was annoying, but she wouldn't give up. She knew she had Issei in front of her, so without further ado she attacked, creating an ice pillar that she threw where Issei was supposed to be. I'm sorry, young man, better luck next time. Issei came out from her left, surprising her, and even more so seeing how he had his fist on fire. Bam! UGH, Shiori received a punch in the face. It was a good thing that she had covered that side with ice, but she still felt her cheek burn. She crashed into the wall, but Issei didn't stop and threw a fireball. She still stunned, creating a wall of ice that blocked the attack. Come on, heroine, don't you have to stop me? Hurry up or all of Mizudafu will be a crater, haha, Issei shouted, putting on a maniac face. Yes, he got into his role, Kyuka said with a drop of sweat. Well, it makes sense, after all, he is a villain in the exercise, Momo commented, seeing logic. Although he seems like a maniac, Denki commented. An elegant one, Mineta commented. That's right, Denki said, agreeing. Sheena frowned and attacked with an ice pillar, but the brunette dodged that and approached her and was about to kick her when she attacked with an ice pillar that came out behind Issei, who received it although he let. Bam! The chestnut tree was slammed against the wall, knocking it over. Sheena got up and using her quirk more began to enclose Issei under ice, thus ending the brunette. HMP, that's what you get for trusting yourself, said Sheena to turn around and use her ice to create a platform that began to go up the middle of the stairs. It can't be, Mineta said, scared. I'll kill him, Denki said nervously. No, it was just left, Izuku said. How come it was left? Ida asked. Well, he usually does that so that it doesn't seem like he always wins, although in the end it's of no use because he ends up winning, said Izuku, sighing as he remembered the times that Issei let himself be hit by him only to receive several blows from him as a gift. But that's stupid, how are you going to recover from that? Kyuka asked. He already did it, Sato said, pointing to the screen. Everyone saw what happened and didn't say anything. I saw it coming, Yeri commented. Phew. A fiery explosion was created and Issei stood up. Without saying anything he began to run on fire, and seeing a pillar that ascended to higher floors he smiled. Geronimo, Issei shouted, starting to melt the ice, causing the pillar to fall to the side. Sheena almost fell, surprised to see how the brunette recovered from the ice coffin to which she was supposed to have relegated him. She composed herself and jumped to the 6th floor, since there were 3 floors left to reach the bomb, and there were only 3 minutes left to get there. She thought Issei would be late and knew that Ojiro and Hagekure wouldn't be a problem for her. But... Hello, Governor, said Issei, arriving flying using fire with his hands emulating the Human Torch. Damn, said the girl with 2-color hair, annoyed. Issei threw himself against her, causing the girl to fall to the ground when the brunette turned using his feet and then propelled himself against her in a sudden change of direction. Go to sleep, Issei said, punching the girl in the stomach. UGH, Sheena complained, the blow knocking the air out of her, and she almost lost consciousness. Issei looked at her. She got up as best she could, but she looked in pain. Well, this is where the hero loses, Issei said seriously as, setting his arms and head on fire, giving him a demonic appearance, he approached her at a slow pace. Sheena frowned. Was it really true that a guy with a quirk similar to her father's was going to beat her? And without doing any harm to her? That only infuriated her, and without further ado she used all her power over ice regardless of whether it harmed Issei or not. Thulawim. Issei was engulfed in a powerful mass of ice that left a huge cube that literally molded itself into the hallway. Sheena sighed tiredly. Her quirk began to affect her just by using ice, and in that way. TCH, it turned out to be more annoying than I thought, she said, seeing that the brunette had a surprised expression on her face anyway. It's over now, but the crunch of ice stopped her walking. Are you serious? She said now incredulously. All the students, including Toshinori and the principal, who was curious about what Issei would do, were surprised. The blonde was thinking about going and finishing it since what Sheena did was excessive and dangerous. But like his students, he didn't expect what came next. Krayak foolish. Now yes, I'm on fire, Issei shouted, caught in flames that suddenly melted the ice. Sheena was grateful that the brown-haired boy caused that heat, as that diminished the negative effect of just using the ice, but it was of no use when she was stunned to have Issei near her in less than a blink of an eye. Now, let's sleep, said Issei, hitting her in the stomach, causing her to spit out saliva, and now, she fell unconscious. But she didn't fall suddenly since Issei held her well. I think this is over, he said, sighing. Boom. The sound as if a bomb exploded was heard through the speakers. The gun exploded, the villains win, shouted Toshinori from outside. Although I think we didn't win since, well, we died in the explosion, haha, said Issei, carrying the girl like a princess. He looked at her face and sighed. She's pretty but more serious than Sona. Too bad, he said to go to his companions who were waiting for him outside the bomb room, totally surprised. Great, Hyoudou-kun, we won, Hagakure said happily. We're sorry we can't be of help with this, Ojiro apologized. Don't apologize, after all, there are times when we will come across subjects that we will not be able to face no matter how strong we are, so don't worry. They are strong in their own ways, and that's all that matters, said Issei, smiling, being that they were smiling, or so he assumed about Hagakure. But seeing her make two peace signs with her gloved hands, well, she was smiling. In the end they left the place, and the brown-haired boy was surrounded by his companions to tell him how great everything was. But in the end they left him alone to take Todoroki to the infirmary to see that he did not have any serious injuries from the blow that Issei gave him. And so the day continued normally, with Issei being praised along with Izuku, getting to know his classmates better, and that, although yes, Issei now earned cold glances from Sheena, which was uncomfortable having her on his left. Without a doubt a somewhat hectic day for the brown-haired boy, but nothing that hasn't happened before, because in the end being the Sekiryuutei is no easy feat. Chapter 13. One day later. And that's why classes are boring, said Issei, sitting on a bench in the park where he usually goes with Rumi, she being the one sitting next to him. I know what you mean, especially when they gave you big assignments. Classes are crap, said Rumi. As always, they were gathered together chatting for a while after training and before going to get ready for their duties. By the way, I heard that this Sekiryuutei has arrested several criminals lately, said Issei, looking at Rumi and holding back the urge to laugh at seeing her upset. TCH, that idiot, he must understand that what he does, although it is not bad, his methods are bad. He literally leaves several criminals in a sorry state, and leaves them traumatized, said Rumi, annoyed. Although it is something great, she said, blushing. Oh? Do you like it? Issei asked, amused, earning an annoying look. It's not that, it's just that, well, the truth is it's something I would do. I mean, I'm known for kicking criminals' asses, of course, not to the extent that the idiot in armor does. But I do leave them injured. That's why I say it's something great, said Rumi, because she is ashamed to admit that someone is great. I see. I would feel sad knowing that you like someone else, said Issei, pretending pain. Ha, I'm popular, you know. Besides, what makes you think I don't like someone? She said, smiling amusedly, hoping to see surprise and disappointment in Issei's eyes, but she only received the former. Really? What luck that guy got, Issei said, feeling a bit envious of that guy. Huh? Aren't you jealous? Rumi asked, surprised. Why? Issei asked, confused. You don't like me? Rumi asked, confused. Huh? Issei was surprised. He and she looked at each other without saying anything, while Rumi frowned. So all that flirting and stuff? Wasn't it because you liked him? Rumi asked. Well, the truth is it wasn't for that reason, you know. They're just jokes between friends. Although I admit that you are beautiful, you are one of the most attractive women I've ever met, and believe me, I've met several. But honestly, it wasn't for that reason. So sorry, said Issei, smiling nervously. Because the truth is he wasn't going for her with that intention. since he knows that she might not be interested in someone younger than her. Rumi looked at him seriously. She honestly doesn't know why she got upset when she heard that. It was strange, but these months together with Issei made her see him in a different way, as a man. Ignoring that he is younger than her added to the fact that her quirk that gives her rabbit-like abilities reacts to him, and even more so when they train. HAA, whatever, at least you're sincere and that's why I like you, said Rumi, letting out a disappointed sigh without her noticing. Well, but as I said, you are beautiful and honestly, I like women like you, bold, strong and sincere, although I also like cute and tender girls or those who have that mature air. Oh, and girls with big breasts, said Issei, letting himself go, surprising Rumi. Wow, what a pleasure, said Rumi, although smiling unconsciously. But I already told you that I like someone, so don't get your hopes up, she said with a certain mockery in her voice. Okay, said Issei, giving her a thumbs up, being that she frowned. Anyway, we better go now because if not, the afternoon will catch us. We'll see you, rabbit. Kick the ass of several villains for me, she said, smiling to run to her apartment to prepare breakfast, since Himiko sleeps late. Sure, see you later, said Rumi without getting up from the bench. Watching as the brunette ran away quickly. Idiot, she whispered, annoyed, because it was obvious who she liked and that was surprising for her. Falling in love with a boy younger than her, it wasn't normal, whatever. I'd better go prepare for another day stopping idiots who break the law, she said with her spirits restored. Time after. AU. Issei walked calmly listening to music. He was whistling when he saw how the entrance of the academy was crowded with journalists. Buck, what happened now? He asked himself, confused. The brown-haired boy decided to keep walking. He noticed how Izuku was walking with Katsumi holding hands, and the girl told the journalist who interrupted them to buck off, with Izuku being slammed by the blonde who took him away from there, without a doubt the representation of opposites attracting. But the brown-haired boy ignored that and simply walked towards the academy. Oh, a student is approaching, Issei heard one of the reporters say. He sighed. He knew what was coming. Tell us, young man, how does it feel to have All Might as a teacher? Asked the reporter, placing the microphone in front of Issei with an expectant look. Great, having the #1 hero giving classes to us future heroes is a pleasant experience, considering his experience in the field of heroism and more when he represents what it is to be a true hero, said Issei, being sincere in everything he said, because Toshinori reminded him of heroes like Superman and something like Goku. But he knows that his idol is not a hero. The reporters felt that it was a very good answer and were going to continue harassing Issei when Aizawa appeared. Hyoudou, come in, was the only thing Eraser had said. Of course, dear professor, said Issei, walking quickly inside. It's not that he was afraid of him, but he could give him extra homework and he didn't want that. Once inside, the brown-haired boy began to walk towards his living room. He was walking calmly when he ran into someone. Ow, the person, a girl, fell to the ground as Issei rushed to help. I'm sorry, that wasn't my intention, said Issei, seeing the girl surprised by her appearance. More than her physical appearance, her hair was what was striking, as it literally looked like green vines with thorns. Don't worry, I was a little distracted too, said the girl calmly. Come here, let me help you, said Issei, extending his hand, and she accepted the help. When she raised it, she apologized again. I'm sorry, really. I didn't mean to knock you down. I was just in a hurry to get back to the classroom and I didn't know I might bump into someone when I passed the corner, he embarrassed said. As I already told you, don't worry, accidents happen, of course. You must remember well that this can happen if you don't pay attention, she said calmly, since Issei agreed with her. But I'm sorry anyway. I won't keep you any longer. See you later, and again, sorry for what happened. And with that the brunette left, leaving the girl behind, who just watched him go. But what a strange boy, she commented, because it was strange for someone to apologize so much for something as small as that accident. Shiozaki-san, let's go, a girl called to the green-haired girl, who agreed to go where she was called. Hello everyone, Issei greeted, entering the room with a smile. Hi Issei-kun, how are you? Yeri asked with her typical cheerful attitude. Well, thanks for asking, Yeri, said the brown-haired boy to the redhead. Hey, did they happen to try to interview you too? Ochako asked. Yes, the truth is that if it weren't for Aizawa-sensei, those guys wouldn't have left me alone, said Issei, sighing as he went to his seat. Hello Yajirosa-san, how are you? He welcomed the brunette to his right. Hello Hyoudou-san, I'm fine, thanks for asking, Momo said with her typical polite attitude. And you Jairu? How are you? Issei asked the brunette next to Momo. Boring because there are classes, Kyuka said boredly. I understand you, classes are tedious, Issei said sighing. He looked to his left at Sheena. She glanced at him but began to read a book she had, ignoring the existence of the brown-haired boy. The North Pole is warmer compared to her, thought Issei. He doesn't know what's happening to her, but he will ignore her for the moment. Hey Issei, look, I'll show you something cool I got, Mineta said, approaching Issei holding his backpack. The dwarf's presence made Momo and Kyuka frown, as it was obvious, since Mineta tried to spy on them or see under their skirts or what to say about Momo. She felt his gaze when she wore her suit yesterday. Mineta, unaware of the disgusted looks of the two girls, opened his backpack and against all predictions of the girls in the classroom who were attentive, the dwarf took out a box of a collectible card game related to the heroes. Let's see this, said Issei, taking the box to open it, and see that it had several heroes and heroines. I bought it from a guy near my house. It was his favorite collection, but I needed the money to pay for some things, so I bought it. It's great. Do you know how much this costs? A lot of money, Mineta said, smiling excitedly. At that point Denki approached to see what was going on. Great! All Might's holographic card with his Silver Age suit, said Denki, taking the card, which was in a special case to store cards. That made Izuku turn to look at the boys with great interest. Wow, I like these, said Issei, looking at cards like one of the dragon heroine Ryukyu and surprisingly one of Mirko. But a cool one was Endeavor's, which like All Might's was holographic. How much did you spend on this? He asked the dwarf, who smiled. Only 30,000 yen, Mineta said, surprising them both. How the hell do you have so much money? I barely have enough to come to classes, Denki said, surprised. Well, saving, of course. I was left with very little, but it was worth it, especially considering that several of those who appear on the cards teach here. I could ask for their signatures and increase the value of the cards, said Mineta, smiling excitedly. You're a damn smart dwarf, said Issei, watching how the dwarf thought of everything. Look, since you are my friends, I will give you 2 cards, but not one of the holographic ones or the ones from the teachers who teach here, Mineta said, smiling. Really? Then I'll keep these, said Issei, keeping Rumi's and Ryukyu's. Well, said Denki, taking other heroes that the brown-haired boy didn't know. After that, the 2 boys returned to their seats, as Aizawa arrived with the same face as always. Issei knows that he goes out to patrol at night, and yet he still comes to teach classes. He doesn't understand how he can stand that. Well now, I hope you've rested from yesterday's rehearsal. And so Aizawa began to talk about what happened yesterday with the battle rehearsal, making clear several defects of the students, among them Izuku and Katsumi, who caused a lot of damage to the place. Well, he understood the girl since she played the villain, but he told her that as a heroine she should think about the environment, since there will be moments where she will have to use her powers in closed places and that have people inside. The same with Izuku. And you, Hyoudou, avoid using your fire too much. That could cause fatal damage either to possible civilians that you have to save or to your own classmates, he said, looking at Issei, who agreed. Well, now let's move on to other matters. You will have to choose a president and vice president for the class, he said, being that activated everyone. And chaos broke out. I want to be class president, said Denki, raising his hand. I want to be one too, Kyuka said. I want to be one, and as a first decree girls must show 30% more thighs, Mineta said, smiling like a pervert. And so literally everyone raised a ruckus. Aizu and I will be president and vice president, said Katsumi, raising her hand, and Izuku's, who laughed nervously at the girl's outburst. Calm down everyone, Ida shouted, making everyone pay attention to him. This position is not a game, it is something serious that must be carried out in the best way possible. In the end, the president and vice president are the ones who represent the class as such, so not anyone can be one just because they want to be one. They have to be elected democratically and fairly, he said seriously, but there was a problem. His hand was also raised. But not everyone has enough confidence to vote for others, said Tsuyu, making a valid point. Yes, and everyone could vote for themselves too, said Yeri. And that's why the people with the most votes will be able to have those positions and be those who are fit to exercise them, said Ida to see Aizawa, who was already inside his yellow bag. Is that okay, sensei? He asked. As long as they choose them on time, it's fine with me, Aizawa said as he took a nap. Issei was playing on his phone at all times, since the truth is that he wasn't interested in the class president thing. It was a boring and annoying position. How the hell did that happen? Issei asked, upset when he saw his name on the board, and to make matters worse, he was the one with 4 votes, followed by Momo, who had 3, and Izuku, who had 2, along with Katsumi. Who was it? Who nominated me? He shouted, looking for the culprit, only to see a certain relative of Pikachu with a grape head acting like an idiot. You too, I shouted, annoyed. Okay, calm down, in the end you won by unanimous vote, Ida commented, but the suffering was visible on his face. Issei sighed in frustration. How was this possible? Well, said Issei, standing up and going to the front where Momo was already, whom he looked at, it seems that now we are together in this, he said dejectedly. Yes, it wasn't what I expected, but it doesn't matter. I'm counting on you, Hyoudou-san, said Momo. I say the same, said the brunette. Perhaps this will help him learn how to better lead an entourage. Well, since we have the president and vice president of the class, we can start with today's classes, Aizawa said, getting up from the floor after sleeping for a few minutes. Issei and Momo went to their chairs, since Issei was a little annoyed with being class president. Classes continued normally until lunchtime. Cafe. Give me a reason not to throw them headfirst into the trash cans, said Issei, sitting next to Denki and Mineta. I gave you Mirko and Ryukyu's cards, Mineta said. Come on, old man, don't be angry. Don't you see that the position you have is great? Denki said, not seeing how boring it is to be class president. Yes, you will also be with Yairapai, Mineta said. Don't give nicknames like that, it's in bad taste, and no Kaminari. Being class president is not great, it's boring, very boring, said Issei, eating his food, which was katsudon. Issei looked at the place. Many students from other courses, for example, the support course, administrators, and so on, all together in one place, although it was obvious since it is the cafeteria where everyone goes to have lunch, or at least the majority. That's when he noticed the green hair of the morning. He was next to a group of girls. That girl who reminded him of Irina, and he doesn't know why it was strange, it just gave him that look. Hey, tell us, Issei, what do you think of the girls in our classroom? Denki asked. As? Issei asked. You know, if they're attractive and all, Denki said. I think Yaoyorozu has the best breasts, only Ashido follows her, and the best, but well, I think Ajiri, Mineta said as Issei looked at him. Listen, although I'm right with you on that, you should leave it, you'll end up being hated by all the girls and you'll be left alone, said Issei, because he didn't want someone to happen to him what would have happened to him if he didn't enter to the supernatural. Oh, come on, you say that because you're handsome, you even have to have a girlfriend, Mineta said, annoyed. Believe me, they hated me in high school for spying on the girls' locker rooms, and the school kendo club gave me horrible beatings, Issei said, rubbing his head as he remembered the beatings the girls gave him. Some deserved and others don't. Wow, really? You don't seem like the type to spy on girls, Denki said, surprised. Appearances can be deceiving. With 2 of my friends we were known as the perverted trio, until of course, we stopped doing it when we thought about applying to different hero academies, Issei said calmly, surprising both of them. Wow, did your friends enter a hero academy? Mineta asked. No, unfortunately not, but they are studying at a normal academy. They plan to apply to the city's university, and that said Issei, getting used to creating crazy stories, something he didn't like because he wasn't one to lie. Oh, that's too bad, but at least they still talk to each other, right? Denki asked, since most of his former friends from high school don't talk to him anymore. Yes, we usually gather video games sometimes or share the porn we get, said Issei, because it was true, they usually meet to exchange porn or hentai magazines or videos. Wow, what a good friendship, Mineta said. And regarding your question, he said, looking at Denki, while the 2 boys looked at him, well, the girls in our classroom are beautiful, they all are, or well, most of them, since well, Hagakure is invisible, he said as the 2 nodded, and yes, even Todoroki and Bakugo are beautiful, although they both have complicated attitudes. Well, Izuku told me that his girlfriend is usually calm around him and is only angry with people who they are not either her family or her boyfriend's family, she said as the two nodded. And Todoroki, I think he hates me, but it doesn't matter. In short, they are all beautiful, she said as the two boys nodded. By the way, isn't it true that Hagakure just gets naked? Mineta asked since the two boys saw him. I mean, he is invisible and only wears gloves and shoes, he said. I think so, and the truth is, that's kind of exciting, Denki said, blushing. Issei didn't say anything, because he knows that she is naked, only that being invisible the pain is removed since no one can see her. Anyway, let's leave that aside and eat now, because we have hero practice and it's Aizawa-sensei who will teach them, Issei said as the two boys sighed. In that. Annie. Hey! An alarm? Denki asked, confused. Attention, Level 3 security violation, all students must evacuate immediately, was the voice that could be heard over the speakers, and that unleashed chaos. Level 3? What does that mean? Denki asked. They infiltrated the academy, that means, Issei said, finishing his lunch quickly and then drinking the juice he had. Hey! Are they attacking us? Mineta asked, alarmed. Calm down, dwarf, we have to move to the exits, Issei said as the two boys saw him. We gain nothing by getting desperate, we have to go to one of the places designated for this type of situation, he said as the two nodded. But it was of no use when all the students began to move in panic, causing a huge tumult of students pushing each other. Kia! Shouted a girl who was about to fall if it weren't for Issei avoiding that. Damn, this just caused them to panic, said Issei, looking at the scene. Are you okay? I asked, looking at the girl. Yes, thank you, she said as Issei stood her up and began to approach the tumult that stagnated in the hallway. Issei watched as Denki was pushed against the wall along with Mineta. He saw Izuku covering Katsumi, who was yelling angrily for them to calm down, while Uraraka, somewhat far from the couple, was being pushed by the crowd of students. He also noticed Momo along with Kyoka, who were being pressed against a wall, but not only them. Other students were being slammed against the walls. It was chaos. Issei jumped and took out his wings to float. He moved in the narrow space between the ceiling and the students, looking out the window at something that left him still. Really? The press? He thought, annoyed, seeing how it was the damn media that had been bothering him in the morning that had caused the alarms to go off. He heard screams of panic, annoyance and pain, which upset him even more, so he headed for the exit, where everyone, being upset, ended up blocking it. Flying over the starting area, I take a breath and then scream. Everyone, calm down, Issei shouted, getting everyone's attention. You all have to calm down, it's just the media, damn it, we're UA students, we're supposed to be the best of the best and we're supposed to face situations like this calmly and without panicking, so calm down, damn it, he shouted. Causing everyone to be surprised and some to look out the window, noticing that it was true. And so everything calmed down. In the end, the media were removed by the police and everything was quiet. Room 1A. Well, President, proceed, Momo said professionally. Okay, said Issei to see his classmates who were watching him attentively. As you will see, now it is time to choose the rest of the class officers, who are the secretary and treasurer respectively, he said as the others became attentive. We're going to do it by vote, so let's be quick so Aizawa-sensei can teach the class, said Momo, while Aizawa was lying on the floor asleep. At the end, the rest of the salon committee was like this. Issei, President. Momo, Vice President. Tenya, Secretary. Izuku, Treasurer. Well, with this we conclude this, Sensei-kin. Issei looked at Aizawa, who was asleep. He sighed. Letting him sleep was good. But he also didn't want him to be upset because he didn't teach the class, Sensei. He shouted as Aizawa suddenly opened his eyes. What? Aizawa asked. We're done and I need to go to the bathroom. I couldn't go because of the commotion while ago, said Issei. Okay, go quickly, he said, coming out of his yellow jacket and sighing. Now everyone, let's start with this and then move on to the day's hero practice, and with that he began to give the class. Issei simply walked out of the classroom and went to the bathrooms. Walking, he arrived and went to pee, And when he came out after washing his hands, he looked out the window at the director who, along with Midnight, Recovery Girl and 13, saw the entrance that was destroyed. Well, that must have been someone's fault, but who could it have been? Issei said as he simply returned to the classroom. There was no point in racking his brains to try to figure out who the culprit was. And so ends another day in Issei's school life in the world of heroes, now being class president, something that in his world he would never have been or wanted. But now there is no way around it. He will be in charge of his class for the duration of the school year until they find a way to take him back to his world.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.